Chapter 469. Is that okay? Lily looked at Li Siqing. Li Siqing nodded. Xueqi took the dice cup from Lily and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely not lose the most." Lu Yihan drank the most, and his cheeks were already a little red. Hearing what Xueqi said, he laughed. "You are the luckiest every time. I will definitely be the one who drinks the most." Sure enough, after a dozen rounds, 476. Lu Yihan lost 10. Changyu looked at him, lost 6, twitched her lips, and punched him in the chest. Did not even lose one.
Go away!
Lu Yihan's face was
serious.
red. After drinking the last glass of wine, he got up and went to the bathroom. Seeing such a scene in front of him, had stopped singing.
Rui's eyes
They put down their
cold.
microphones.
Without saying
and
a word,
Luo turned around and clapped his hands and pulled her over.
Look,
Dumbfounded,
today
Luo
is such a happy
to grab
day.
her other hand and
Why
said,
don't we play
"What do you
something
want
exciting?"
So
What's
direct?
exciting?
Wasn't it too
Xueqi
obvious to
asked.
steal a woman?
Luo Zhan
I should be the
chuckled with
one
a sinister
asking you
look.
what you want to do.
Truth or dare?
Rui did not
Hearing
intend to
that,
back down at
Chang
all.
Yu glanced at
Looking
him
at Luo
contemptuously.
Zhan, he said,
"How old are
Chang Yu
you?
has been with me for
Still
a long
so
time.
childish."
Luo
can't
Zhan
say
was struck
that.
by lightning
I
and
am
blurted
still a
out,
child.
"Aren't you pursuing
Luo
her?"
Zhan shamelessly
Although the words
took
were
out a deck
directed
of
at Rong
cards.
Rui, this
His
is the
eyes
truth
were
or
looking
dare
at Chang
card that I
Yu.
worked so hard
Chang
to
Yu's
get.
face was cold.
Come on, and she
Let's play
immediately wanted
together.
to get rid of Rong
Xueqi
Rui's hand. Looked
But
at
how
Li
could
Siqing
Rong Rui
and
let
asked,
go?
"Honey,
Do you want to
instead,
play?"
He tightened his
You
grip
want
on
to
her
play?
hand. He
Chang
never
Yu tried to
participated
take back
in
the
Luo
hand that Luo
Zhan's
Zhan was
retarded
holding.
games, but Luo
Xueqi
Zhan
was not
nodded
willing
and
to
took
let
his
go.
hand.
Chang Yu
"I
frowned
want to
deeply
play,"
and shouted
"Let's
impatiently.
play together?"
"It hurts."
"Okay.
Let go, okay?
Lily was also excited
Luo
and
Zhan
waved at Luo
immediately
Zhan.
let go of her hand.
"Let me see what
Seeing
kind
the
of
red
cards you
marks on her
have."
hand,
Luo
he
Zhan
looked
chuckled and
apologetic.
handed the cards over.
"Sorry,
Chang
Lily
Yu, I didn't
casually
mean
flipped
to.
through 2 cards and
Chang Yu
exclaimed,
looked at Rong Rui with a
"Damn,
cold
Luo
face.
Zhan, you are
Seeing
so good
Luo
at
Zhan
playing.
let go,
Choose any
Rong
member of
Rui
the
also
opposite
let
sex
go.
to have sex for
2
10
men
minutes.
fighting for a
And
woman.
the selected member
The
must
scene
not
was a
object.
bit intense. What position did you
Xueqi
use
looked
during
at
their
their
different
first ML
expressions
session.
and sympathized
Is your
with
current
Luo
partner
Zhan?
the person you
In
love the
fact,
most?
Rong
Go and
Rui
ask
had
the staff
already
for her phone
succeeded.
number and book a room.
However, were
Ha,
Chang
ha,
Yu
ha.
and Rong Rui
This is
quarreling
fun
now?
This is fun.
Chang Yu picked
Hey,
up the card and
wanna
looked
play
at it.
together?
She smiled
Oh,
and
Ming,
reached
who
out
was
to
sitting
take the half
behind her,
bottle of whiskey
had
that she
already
had just
seen the
used to
words on the
scare
cards
people.
clearly.
Everyone was
I
shocked.
have no
objection.
Lily's eyes
Anyway,
widened,
you
and she
and I
pressed
are
the
a couple
bottle
and said, and second brother and
"Sister, are you
sister-in-law are a
serious?"
couple.
As
Really?
for the rest,
Luo Zhan was a good
Hee-hee.
man. Looking
Really
at
a
Luo
good
Zhan,
man.
he
Chang
saw
Yu
his
knew and
sneaky
knew
look
his
and knew what
character.
he was up to.
If she was still
So
the
that
old
was how
Chang
it
Yu,
was. Maybe she would really
couldn't
consider
help
it,
but look at
but
her and
now,
clapped his
she
hands.
could not go to Rong
Come
Rui.
on.
Just
That guy
then,
wanted
the
her
door
to
to
be
the
with
room
him.
opened. In that
Everyone's
case,
eyes
she could
gathered
no longer
there.
get rid of him.
Rong Rui's
Rather than
expression
that,
did not change.
she might as well drink
He
this half
glanced at
bottle of
Chang Yu
wine and walk
let
straight
fate take its
inside.
course.
When she saw
Taking
him,
the bottle,
her face
she
changed.
removed the lid and
poured
poured
it into her mouth.
"Happy birthday."
Luo Zhan was
Rong Rui
frightened
said
and
without
quickly grabbed the
sincerity as he
bottle from
handed
her
a
hand.
gift to Yu Lily.
However,
Chang
she
Yu
had
was
already drunk
immediately
several
speechless,
mouthfuls.
and
No
her
wonder
face
when
was
he was
red.
at her house,
He
Xueqi
said he
also
wanted
stood
to
up
go
and
with her.
said,
Well,
it turned out
it's
that he
just
did
a
not
game.
want to pester her.
Why so serious?
But came to Yu Lily's birthday.
Luo Zhan held
In
the bottle
fact,
in his hand
Yu
with a
Lily
bitter
had seen
face.
Rong Rui once.
He nodded repeatedly
but she did
and
not have
said,
a deep impression
"Let's
of him.
not play anymore."
In
Seeing
fact,
him naturally
it's
sitting
not
next to
very
Chang
good.
Yu,
This
Chang
game
Yu
is
also
too
did
rich.
not
She turned to
speak.
look at
I
him.
really don't know
Rong
who
Rui
came up
was
with it.
looking at her
Chang Yu
with
leaned
deep
in the direction of
chuckled and
Luo
looked at
Zhan,
Luo
stretched out his
Zhan.
hand,
Somewhat disgusted
isn't
with
it
the
your
bottle
idea?
from Luo Zhan's hand.
I think you
raised
did it
his
on
head
purpose.
and gulped
Chapter
it down.
470.
Seeing her
Lu
smile,
Yihan came out of the
Luo Zhan
bathroom
breathed a
and
sigh
found
of
that they
relief.
were all gathered together.
Just as
He was about to
he
say
walked
something,
over,
slamming the
sat
empty
directly
bottle
next
on
to
Rong
Li
Rui,
Siqing,
Rong
and
Rui
asked,
said
cheeks
that
ready
was
to play
slightly
again.
gay.
So many people
And he
didn't
took a
cheat
breath.
just
Truth
now.
or dare?
His lips
It's
were
your turn
parted
to cheat.
separately. I
Don't
apologize
all
for what
crowd
happened the
together.
day before
The
yesterday.
sofa
was circular. Then
surrounding
he walked
a
toward
large
the
glass
door.
table. Chang Yu looked
Luo
at his back
Zhan
and
divided
asked,
the cards in his
"Where
hand
are you
into two
going?"
parts. There was no
One was
response,
truth,
and the other
I'm
was
going
dare.
to have a look.
He broke them up
Chang Yu
and placed
picked up
them
her
on
bag
both
and
sides
chased
after
after
him. A bottle
Luo
was
Zhan
placed
felt
in the
that his
middle.
sincere heart
The
had been
crowd was
completely
dispersed
crushed
into pieces
and
by
everyone
Rong
formed a
Rui's scheming
circle.
means. Lu Yihan did
Luo
not
Zhan
care and
clutched
said,
his heart and
in
slumped
this
on the
case,
sofa,
pregnant
looking
women
up at the
first.
ceiling in despair.
Qian, you go
He
first.
sniffed and said sadly,
Hearing this,
"Did you hear that?"
Xueqi went forward
What?
and had a look. Xueqi
Who knew
asked
that her luck was not so
cooperatively.
good.
And she was
Oh.
the first one to get a
Luo
look.
Zhan wailed,
Clutching
clutching
his
his
heart. Ihan,
"The
are
sound
you
of my
setting me
heart
up?
breaking."
Hearing their
Rong Rui
intimate
walked
address,
very fast.
Li Xiqing felt
When
a bit
Chen Yu
jealous and
walked
squinted
out,
at Xueqi.
he was already gone,
slightly warning her.
She ran all the way to catch up
shrank
with
her
him.
head when she saw
Completely
his
not
back.
knowing what
He
had
had
made him
already
unhappy.
entered the elevator.
Luo Zhan asked,
She hurriedly pressed the
"Truth
button,
or dare?"
and the elevator door was
Truth,
opened
dare
again.
is too exciting.
She gasped slightly,
Then she reached for
looked
the
at him
card and
and
looked
walked
at it,
in,
blushing.
Rong Rui
"Can
drank
I
a little
change
too
it to
much,
dare?"
and he finished it
No.
in one breath.
Luo Zhan took
The
the
effect
card
of the
from her
alcohol
hand,
came quickly,
laughed,
and in
read
such
it
a short
out.
time,
"Are
Rong
you having
Rui's
a good
face had
sex
already
life with your
become red.
partner?"
Walking
How
out of
long
the
is
door
the
of Palace
highest
Number
record?
1,
The
how many
cold wind
times a
blew,
night, and Rong
Xueqi
Rui's
was
footsteps
about to
slightly
cry.
swayed. She
Chen Yu
turned her head
immediately
and
went
pulled
to
Li
hold him and
Xiqing's
scolded,
sleeve.
Why are
I
you
don't want to
pretending
play
when you
anymore.
can't drink?
How
Is
could
it
she say
interesting?
such a thing?
Rong
Li
Rui
Xiqing
did not
glanced at
answer.
Luo Zhan,
Instead,
very elegantly unbuttoning
he held
his
her hand
cufflinks,
and looked at her with his
asked,
amber eyes.
"Where did you get such a
But
lewd
soon
thing?" He closed them.
Don't tell me this
My
is the
head
content
hurts.
of all the books?
Nonsense.
Of course,
Chang Yu yelled
Luo
at him
Zhan
and
had
had
spent
helped
a
him
lot
find
in
his
order
car.
to pick up a girl.
The alcohol
However,
she had just drunk
how
was
could
too
she
strong.
say such a thing?
At this moment,
Luo Zhan
her
did not
footsteps
change
were a
his
little
expression and
unstable,
retorted,
and her head was
"Do you
dizzy.
mean you want to be
Rong
shameless?"
Rui noticed her strangeness
Sister-in-law,
and took her
answer
car
him.
key.
Don't be
drive.
afraid of him.
It's
It
dangerous.
doesn't matter even if
Take
he
a
is a
taxi.
second man.
Then,
Say,
he had reached
do
out
I
and
really
stopped
have
an
to
empty
say it?
taxi.
Rong
Xueqi
Rui
was sent to the back
grabbed
seat by
Li
Cheng
Xiqing's
Yu,
hand
and
when
looked
she
at
was
him
about
for help.
to leave. Go
She was
ahead.
pulled in.
With a smile
Cheng
in
Yu
his eyes,
exclaimed,
and when
Li
she
Xiqing
came back
glanced
to
at
her
Louis
senses,
Han. The door
it's
had been
not
closed.
shameful.
Rong
Louis
Rui
Han
told her the
avoided his
address,
eyes and took a
which
sip
was
of
Cheng
water.
Yu's. The back of his
After
hand that
paying
was
the fare
holding
and
the
getting
cup
off,
was so tight
Rong
that his
Rui
veins
became
stood
more
out.
dizzy.
And
Su
so did
Jianxi
Cheng
blushed
Yu.
and said in a low
Seeing
voice,
the gate of the community
"I can't
where
remember
she
the
lived,
time.
she was
It
in a
should
trance.
Half
Why
an
did she
hour
bring
or
Rong
an
Rui
hour?
over?
How
Strange.
many times a night?
Let's go.
You Lily asked
Rong Rui
excitedly.
pulled her.
5?
His steps were not
6
steady,
or 7, but he
Is
still
that
knew the
5,
way.
6,
Entering the
or
elevator
7?
and finding her door,
7.
Rong Rui
8
reached into her
times.
bag for the key.
He took a sip of water
She was a
and
little
cleared
dizzy.
his throat.
After he
She
took out the
punched
key,
him in the leg.
she suddenly felt
Of course
something
not.
was wrong.
Yes, after
You
the
still
shower
want to
I
go
came
in?
again. I
Su
paid
Jianxi
rent.
blushed even
Rong
more.
Rui chuckled
Covering
and
her
pushed her
face,
in.
she leaned
She
on the
was
sofa
very
and
dizzy.
shouted. After being
Stop
pushed
it.
by him,
Everyone
she
laughed,
obediently walked
and
back
Louis
into the
Han
room
also
and
curled
fell
his
down
lips,
when she saw the
but
bed.
it was a bit forced.
However,
She
she
felt
Lily
a weight on
clearly
her
saw
body
it
and
asked
opened her
Su
eyes.
Jianxi to turn again.
It was Rong Rui.
This time it was
Rong
Louis
Rui's
Han's face
turn.
was flushed, but his eyes were clear.
Chapter
She was in a
471.
trance. Luo Zhan took the card and
Looking
read it
at
out
him,
with a smile.
she didn't know how to
Find
react
a person
and
at
just
the
stared
scene
at
to
him
bang
blankly.
against the wall for
Rong
3
Rui
minutes.
leaned down and kissed her
The
lips
more
from
he read,
behind.
the more
Their
he felt a
bodies
sense
fell
of
down
crisis.
and they rolled on the single
At the
bed.
scene,
Being
being Lily
kissed
and
so
Su
suddenly
Jianxi could not
her
be
consciousness
touched.
suddenly sobered
So,
up and she
only Chang
immediately
Yu was
struggled.
left? Oh my god. No, Assistant Chang Yu was his.
Chapter
Luo Zhan
478.
calmed down and said,
After Su
"How about
Jianxi and the
another
others
one?"
stopped playing,
No,
they went
how
to
can
eat.
this be?
Luo
Su
Zhan was not in a
Jianxi
good mood
protested
and deliberately quarreled
Why
with
not
Louis
me?
Han.
You can
After a
change
few
it for
words,
him?
the two of
That's
them
right.
began to quarrel with
You
each
Lily
other again.
echoed.
Su
How
Jianxi
can
looked
this
at the two
be?
of them
You
speechlessly
can't
while
change
eating.
it.
Picked up a
Rong
piece of
Rui
lobster
straightened
meat
up and
and
put his
fed it
hand
to
on
Li
Chang
Xiqing.
Yu's side.
Oh Ming
It
saw
was not
Su
a big
Jianxi's
movement,
action and
but
glanced at
Chang
Yu
Yu's
Lily.
heart jumped
Yu
inexplicably.
Lily had just picked up a
Louis
piece of
Han
meat
pursed
and was
his
about
lips
to
and
put
said
it in her
after a long
mouth.
time,
Noticing
"Then I
Oh
will
Ming's
drink."
gaze,
Okay,
she immediately
finish it.
turned the chopsticks.
Yu Lily took out the
Come
half
on,
bottle of whiskey
Oh
and
Ming
raised
ate
her
with
chin
satisfaction,
provocatively, but saw Luo Zhan
Damn.
had become resentful
Luo
again.
Zhan lost
Looking
his
at
voice.
Louis Han,
Cheng Yu was scared.
Come on,
That's too
Louis
cruel.
Han was speechless and
Lily,
slapped
this
him.
is not good.
Su Jianxi
off.
said.
Luo
After
Zhan
drinking
was
half a
slapped
bottle of
directly on the
whiskey,
table and cried,
she would be dead.
There is no
You
justice.
Lily did not think there was
Why
anything
can't
wrong
a handsome
and said
man like
confidently,
me find a girlfriend?
"Well, if you don't follow the
I
rules,
finally fell
you
in
will be
love with one."
punished." But she ran
Looking
away with
for her?
someone else.
Wasn't it
It's
just
so
banging
unfair.
against the wall?
Louis
Wasn't
Han
it just
snorted,
asterisk
took a sip from the
asterisk?
beer bottle,
She
and
was
said,
here.
"I don't have
You
a
can
girlfriend
find
either.
anyone,
And
I
the
am more
chosen
handsome
person
than
cannot
you,
refuse,
taller than you,
otherwise,
and stronger than you.
You
If you want to be
slammed the bottle
single,
on the ground.
I will be ahead of you.
Finish it." How
Louis
old are
Han
you?
turned around with a
22
painful
years
look,
old,
and
a
then
good
looked
time,
around the
and
crowd.
Li
I am
Xiqing
already
held his wife in
27.
his arms.
There was
After
no
crying,
expression on his
Luo
cold
Zhan
face,
suddenly looked
but the
up.
warning was
"How
overflowing.
about we make do with
You
each
Lily
other?
looked at him with a pair
You
of
can
big
clean
eyes,
up and cook."
but
I don't
he knew
mind
what
that
she
you
was
are a
thinking
man.
about him.
But she
Okay.
already had a boyfriend.
Louis Han
didn't she?
ate the meat with his
Louis
chopsticks,
Han finally
chewing
looked
and
at
said,
Cheng Yu. "One day
Rong
you can
Rui
change your
and Luo
personality,
Zhan both
and
looked
then
at him
come
with a
back to see
warning
if
look.
I am blind.
Ashi.
What if you are lucky?" Louis Han was in a
Damn,
dilemma.
my face.
He
This
reached out
face.
and scratched
Do
his
I
head,
need plastic
and
surgery?
finally pulled
Ah,
Luo
do
Zhan
I?
next to him.
Luo Zhan pointed to his
Zhan
face
looked like
and
he
said
had seen a
fiercely.
ghost.
Louis
He was
Han
pulled
held the
and
bottle
suddenly
for a long
pressed
time
against the
before
wall.
nodding seriously.
The crowd exclaimed.
Very much.
Luo Zhan
Luo Luo felt something soft pressed against his lips, and his whole person was stunned.
But I have not married yet. Give up.
Rongruei lightly
There are
reminded.
not many blind
Louis
people in
Han
this
looked like he
world.
was in pain and stuck out his
Can't you
tongue.
comfort me?
Luo Zhan had a disgusted
Louis
expression on
Han
his face
also
and
realized
clenched his
that his
teeth
words
tightly.
might have been a bit
The
harsh.
chosen ones can't
He
refuse,
hesitated and said,
Rongruei
"In
said
fact,
again.
there are quite a lot of blind people." Was Rongruei
Luo Zhan
sick?
almost flipped the
Luo
table
Zhan
and
left.
cursed in his heart,
Xueqi
but he still
and Yu
kept his
Lily
teeth
were both
closed.
laughing.
Finally,
Looking at the two of them,
3 minutes
the
were
two
up.
women exchanged
Louis
a look.
Han immediately
After
pushed
the
him
meal,
away
they
and
turned
turned
his
his
head
head
to
to
the
ways.
sides.
Luo Zhan and Luo
Zhan
both
had the
drank a
same
little too
reaction,
much.
and both
After
of them
the two
retched at
guys
the
went
same
home with their
time.
wives,
the
the two
burst
brothers
out
also
laughing,
hugged each other
grabbing
and
his
stumbled
arm
on
and
their way
laughing
home.
so hard that she
Louis
almost
Han
cramped
patted
up.
him on the shoulder.
Oh Ming was the
His
most
drunken
impolite,
face full of righteousness.
He laughed the loudest and said,
"We are all in the
Luo
same
Zhan,
boat. If your old Luo knew what happened today,
I'm having an affair.
he would break your legs."
Louis Han couldn't
You
help
Lily,
but laugh.
on the other hand, have you ever
Couldn't
been
laugh
educated?
anymore.
She looked at Lu
So what
Yihan's
if you know
direction
ancient
and picked up the
poems?
glass of water.
I also memorized them when I was
Ming
in primary
clearly
school.
noticed you Lily's strangeness
Seriously,
and glanced at her.
you've lived for
Then
27
his eyes
years,
fell on Lu Yihan,
and you really haven't
and his
had a
eyes
single
suddenly
girlfriend?
became deep.
No.
Lu Yihan did
What
not
about
spit out
F***
anything and
CK?
continued to spin
When
the bottle.
Luo Zhan heard these
This
two
time,
words,
it was
he
immediately
Ming.
recovered and
Ming
shouted,
leaned over to pick up a truth
F***
card and
CK.
threw it to
That
Luo
kind of thing.
Zhan.
I don't even want to touch that kind of thing. Chapter 472. If his mother knew,
Yes, I do.
she would definitely
Ming
break
did
his
not
legs.
hesitate
and looked at you,
TSK.
Lily. I really
Lily was
suspect that you are
drinking
gay.
water.
Not
Stay
knowing
away
what
from me.
expression she had.
Then she reached
Ming
out
quickly
and pushed
looked
him
away,
away,
picked up the
Luo
bottle,
Zhan did
and
not
turned
let
it
it go
again.
and stuck to her
This
again.
time, it was
Tiptoeing
Rong
and
Rue,
forcing
himself
who
to
was
put his
still
shoulder.
relatively
I
unfamiliar
also
to
suspect
everyone.
that you are gay.
Rong Rue directly
so
took a truth
handsome.
card and threw it
Why
to
don't you
Luo
have a
Zhan.
girlfriend?
Luo Zhan was
Finally
puzzled.
admit that I am
Since
more
when did
handsome
he become
you?
a spokesperson?
A little bit.
What is the most
TSK.
shameful thing you have done
You
in your
haven't
life?
answered my question.
Unexpected
Well,
question.
There is a girl.
Rong Rue
I have
was a
loved
little
her for 8
disappointed.
years.
He thought
She
about it
doesn't
and
like
replied,
you?
Probably
No,
when I
I
tried
have
to
not
please a
told
woman,
her.
but was
Lu
thrown
Yihan
out like
looked
a
into the
rat by that
distance.
woman.
A bit
Then he glanced at
absent-minded.
Chang Yu.
She is
She
so
pretended
simple that
not
she
to
is a bit
understand and
stupid.
sneered. If I
So
do
you
not
deserve
tell
to
her,
end up like
she will
this
not
because of
understand.
Tang Menjing.
Hey,
You
think I
mentioned
can't
Tang
see that you like
Menjing
the
again.
wife of your second
Rong
brother,
Rue
right?
was not happy and
That
said
girl
calmly,
for 8 years is
Cheng
Xueqi,
you know who I'm
right?
talking about.
How do you
Something
know?
was wrong.
Come on, you
Luo
are not
Zhan
blind.
pricked up his ears
Whenever
and looked
you
at
are
Rong
free
Rue,
at night,
feeling
stare
very
at her and
uncomfortable.
ask her first before
Could
you
it
do
be
anything.
that this guy had
Even
already
a fool
gotten his
can see
hands on
that.
Special Assistant
Is
Chang?
that so?
It shouldn't
I am
be.
used to it.
Chang Yu was
It
so
used to be
difficult
like
to deal
this.
with and had such
She
high
used
standards.
to say that I was her
Luo
best
Zhan
friend.
had not succeeded
Poor.
yet.
Luo
Rong
Zhan
Rue
looked
had so
sympathetic.
many dark history.
Why didn't
Why?
you confess?
Cheng Yu ignored him.
Maybe if you did,
Rong Rue
she would have
continued
chosen
to
you.
turn the bottle.
Hearing that,
And the next one
Lu
was Li
Yihan was
Xiqing.
dazed for a moment
Luo
and then
Zhan
smiled
waved his
bitterly.
hand and said, My family
Don't
is
choose
poor,
truth.
and I
It's
wanted
too
to wait
boring.
until I had my own
Choose
career
dare.
before pursuing her.
Hearing that,
I
Li
did not
Xiqing's
expect
hand,
that, which was
she
about to
got
flip
married
dare,
so soon.
immediately turned to flip the truth.
Luo Zhan asked, Damn,
Chapter
what is the most touching thing your
479?
partner has done?
Okay. Li Xiqing
Okay,
looked at
I'm
Su
home.
Chenxi.
You can go back.
Su Chenxi bowed her head
Luo Zhan
slightly.
waved at him.
She did not
reached
seem
into
to
his
have done
trouser
anything
pocket,
particularly
and suddenly
romantic.
stopped.
Li
Seeing his
Xiqing
reaction,
reached out and took
Lu
her in his
Yihan
arms.
asked, What's
His
wrong?
voice was low and gentle as he
Luo
said,
Zhan searched
She
several
is still
pockets and
alive.
said with a desperate look,
Just 4 words.
I don't seem to have the
But
key.
Su Chenxi felt a mix
Lu
of
Yihan
emotions.
looked at the time,
An
and it was
inexplicable
already
throbbing
past
burst
12
out from the
o'clock in the
depths of her
morning.
soul and instantly
so
soaked
late.
her whole body.
Can you find a
Su
locksmith?
Chenxi looked up at his
There
eyes.
are no hotels
His
nearby.
eyes were extremely
How
deep,
about staying
like
at
the
my
vast
house for a
starry
night
night in the Antarctic.
Your house.
So bright and gorgeous
Well,
that she was
I'll
mesmerized.
pay you back for taking me in for
That's
one
it.
night last time.
Luo Zhan was a little surprised.
Let's go. Okay,
Luo
he
Zhan
responded
paced.
in a low voice.
His movements neither
Her
fast
eyes were
nor
already
slow.
red.
When he
and she
arrived
hugged
at
him
Lu
back.
Yihan's house,
Hey, don't
Luo
be like
Zhan
this.
realized that the distance
single
between their
dog is
houses
still
was
here.
very close. Luo
It
Zhan
took less
covered
than
his
10
eyes.
minutes to walk.
Li Xiqing
As soon as
slightly
he
pursed
entered
his
the
lips
door
and turned the bottle.
Luo Zhan was
This
amazed.
time, it was
From the
Luo
entrance,
Zhan. There was a
Luo
shoe
Zhan
cabinet,
was a little
which was
excited.
neatly lined with all
He
kinds of
rubbed his
beautiful
hands and
sneakers and
chose
leather
dare.
shoes.
If he was
Further
lucky,
inside,
maybe he
the
could
white
choose to
sofa
have
was
sex
as
with the
clean as
opposite
new,
sex,
with a
or
fruit
do
plate and a
push-ups
laptop
on the
coffee
opposite sex.
table.
Then
The
he
white
would go
dining table
directly
was
to
covered
Cheng
with
Yu.
an elegant tablecloth, and
Just
in the middle
thinking
of the
about it
tablecloth
made him a little
there was a
excited.
vase with 2 green
However,
roses on
as soon
it.
as he picked up
It
the
was
card,
very fresh,
Luo
with
Zhan
a
was
fresh
stunned.
smell and a fresh
Lu
environment.
Yihan grabbed the
On the
cards and
wall
laughed.
of the living room, 5
There
minutes
were
of
photo
coquettish
frames.
moaning on the spot.
There were Lu Yihan
Ha, ha, ha.
himself, Su
Hearing
Chenxi,
this,
the
his
others
work
also
partners,
convulsed with
and
laughter.
Yu Lily when he was in his school uniform.
Luo Zhan stood
Luo
up angrily.
Zhan looked around and
That's
went
not
into
fair.
the kitchen.
Why
He
can't
found
I
that the
choose a
whole house
partner
was
for my
clean and
dare?
spotless.
I can
and
only
all
do
the
it
tableware in the
myself.
kitchen was upside
Besides,
down on the shelf.
I've never done
Opening
it
the
before.
refrigerator,
How can I do
Luo
it?
Zhan took a bottle of Coke and
Yu
drank it
Lily
directly.
started to make a
When he
fuss.
came out, he
It
shouted
turns out to be an old
exaggeratedly,
virgin.
God, is
Ha,
this
ha,
a
ha.
man's house?
Luo Zhan blushed
live
and said
alone?
confidently,
Yes.
What?
Lu
What's
Yihan
wrong?
glanced at his expression
means
and
that
threw
I
the
don't
clothes
do
he
it.
took from his house
I am
last
a
time
very
at him
good
with
man.
contempt.
Do you think it's like your doghouse? Luo
Chapter
Zhan took it and
473.
smelled the fragrance on the
I
clothes.
don't care. His
Come on.
expression was very
Ming
complicated.
waved his hand.
Compared
Do
with
you
yours,
want to be shameless?
mine is really a doghouse. Luo Zhan felt
And
his
there was
heart
no
hurt,
comparison
and
at
at the
all,
same time,
okay?
he felt
Louis
cold.
Han raised his
He sat
eyebrows
down
and
again
said,
and faced
"I'll
everyone's
clean up the guest
expectant
room
or
for you.
gloating gazes.
You go take a
He
shower
retracted his
first."
legs and leaned back
All
on the
right.
sofa.
Luo
His
Zhan
eyes were
experienced
blurry
the pleasure
and
of
he
being
crossed
a
one
guest,
hand in front of
but
his
when
chest.
he was about to enter the bathroom,
Biting his lower lip,
his phone suddenly
he
rang
rubbed
with
his
an
legs
emergency
seductively.
notification.
Warning.
Oh.
The prey
Ha
has
ha ha
entered
ha
the
ha.
net.
Please
Xueqi
retract
was
the
laughing
net.
in Li Xiqing's
Luo
arms.
Zhan raised his
Li
eyebrows
Xiqing
and muttered to
also looked
himself,
at Luo Zhan.
"Finally." Then he shouted, Luo Zhan touched his head and let out a long and coquettish moan.
Just don't delete my stuff.
It hurts my eyes.
Luo Zhan got the nod.
Enough.
Immediately turned on the
Luo Zhan
computer
couldn't stand
and
it
directly
anymore and
entered
covered
the
his
trap he
eyes.
had already set for that
However,
person.
Luo Zhan
About 10
seemed to
minutes
be
later,
deliberately against
Luo
him and
Zhan
screamed
copied all
even
the
louder.
information and sent it to Li Xiqing before calling him.
What the hell?
It was already
How
past
can there
1
be so
a.m.
many strange
and Li
sounds?
Xiqing seemed to have fallen
Ming
asleep.
waved his hand
It
and
was a long
roared.
time before he was
Enough.
picked up.
Enough.
Don't hurt our ears. Luo Zhan said
Lily
quickly.
laughed and lay on the
Do
sofa.
you remember the last time
laughing
you
so
asked me to
hard that her
find Tang
stomach hurt?
Zhenghao?
Changyu
Li
covered her
Xiqing
mouth
was
and
originally
laughed so
sleepy,
hard that her whole
but he
body was
immediately woke
convulsing.
up after hearing
In the
what
end,
Su Qianxi
she
said.
couldn't
help but fall
Found
sideways.
Yes,
He
he
finally
finally
used that
inadvertently
card.
leaning on him.
I just
Rong
captured
Rui
his
smiled
location.
slightly and pretended
He's in
not to
San
know,
Francisco,
looking in the direction
USA.
of Luo Zhan. Since that's
Seeing
the case,
this, Luo
let's take
Zhan
away all
immediately
of his
sat
available
up,
funds
reached
and
out,
spread the
and
news.
pulled Qingyu, saying,
So fast.
Okay, sit
Luo
down.
Zhan was surprised.
Don't fall. Yes. Then,
She's
he
pregnant.
took the bottle and turned it again.
I don't want any more
this
accidents.
Time, it was
The
you,
sooner
Lily.
the Tang family
You
is dealt
Lily
with,
was still laughing.
the sooner I can be at
Seeing
ease.
everyone looking at
Although
her,
the
she
Tang
suddenly
family had
understood
fallen
and said, if Tang
"Dare.
Zhenghao was left alone,
Do all you
there
can
would
to
be
seduce
too many
any
variables.
member of the opposite sex
Instead
except
of being
the target,
passive and
it
sit
was
on the
better
lap
to
of the
take the
opposite
initiative
sex for a round.
Only by striking
Seduce.
first could he smoothly
Lily
control the
raised her
overall
eyebrows.
situation, right?
Except the target?
Luo Zhan knew him very
Yes.
well.
Su
So he
Qianxi
nodded
heard
and did
that
not
and
say
said,
more. How do you
Got
seduce?
it. Leave it to me.
No.
Thank
Ming
you.
said with a cold
Li
face.
Xiqing said the
Change
last
it.
sentence. How can
Hung
you
up the
do
phone.
that? And
You have
tiptoed
to
back to
abide
the
by
room.
the rules of the game,
Su
or
Qianxi
it will
was
be
sleepy.
boring.
Luo
Feeling
Zhan
him,
said
she
vindicatively.
subconsciously reached out
Sister-in-law,
and hugged him.
Let's start.
Her breathing was
Who do you
still
want
even
to
and
seduce?
steady.
Li
She
Xiqing
stood up
chuckled
and
and
reached
reached
out to brush away the
her
stray
eyes
hair
first
on her
fell
forehead.
on Li Xiqing.
She had already
Su Qianxi
completely
immediately
covered his
presence.
face like she was protecting
nice.
a child and yelled, "No!" Li Xiqing curled his lips, took her
Chapter
hand down and
480.
agreed.
Su
No.
Qianxi had a good
You
sleep,
Lily
shrugged and
but
walked
it was
toward
not
Lu
enough.
Yihan.
It was
Ming
definitely
held her
not a good
hand.
feeling to be
His
woken
pair
up
of
early
peach
in the
blossom
morning.
eyes looked at her
Feeling
as if
that
they
his
were
hand
dipped
was
in
pinching her
poison.
nose.
You Lily
She
was a
frowned
little
and
scared.
slapped him.
But, however,
This
she
might
was
really
caught
be the
firmly
only
and
chance.
lifted up.
You Lily
She
shook
opened
his
her
hand
eyes
off
with
and
a
said,
pout. It's
After
just a
seeing
game.
Li Xiqing,
Don't
her
mind
head
it.
drooped again.
Lu
Han
Yihan
saw her
sleepy.
walking toward him and
Sleep
felt a
on the
little
plane.
uneasy.
Li
She
Xiqing
glanced
pulled
at
her up.
Ming and cleared her
We're
throat.
going to the capital today.
Lily,
Do you want
forget?
another one?
No.
For the time being,
I'm not going.
Lu Yihan could not
Let's
afford
go
to provoke
tomorrow.
someone like Ming.
Then she burrowed
What
into
if
the
he
quilt.
misunderstood that
Li
she
Xiqing
wanted to
was
steal his
speechless.
woman?
You
Lily
Lily
say
walked
the same
over
thing
and pushed
tomorrow.
his shoulder.
Get up.
She bent down
I'll
and
help
bent
you
one
change.
of her thighs to kneel between his crotch. She
Such
put
a
her
sexy
arm on
scene
him.
made Su
I
Qianxi's
will
eyes
vomit
widen.
on the plane.
You
Are
told
you really
Rong
going to
Hui
do it?
yesterday that you would arrive this afternoon. Are you going to
Chapter
break your promise?
474.
Hearing
You
this,
Lily also
she
knew
finally
that she couldn't go
straightened
too
up
far,
and let him help her
so
take
she
off her
just
clothes.
stared at him for a few
Li
seconds.
Xiqing tapped her
After
nose.
noticing the shock and
You
fear
are
in his
getting
eyes,
lazier.
you Lily's
Although
red
he
lips
said
curled
so,
up,
he
and
still
she gently
patiently
licked her
helped
red
her
lips.
change.
She
From the
stared at
beginning
him
to
and
the
then
end,
narrowed her eyes.
she did not even look
You
up.
Lily.
Done.
He couldn't stand it
No.
anymore, stood
She
up
immediately
and roared.
opened her eyes.
She straightened
got
out
up
of
and
bed
turned her head.
and went to the bathroom.
It's just a joke.
After washing,
Why are you
Li
in such a
Xiqing had
hurry?
already prepared her bag
Then she
and a
sat
small
on Lu
suitcase
Yihan's
with a few
lap,
pieces of
took the
clothing in
bottle,
it.
and began to
Let's
spin it.
go.
This
Wait
time,
for me.
it was Li
I'll
Xiqing
put on
again.
some makeup.
This time,
No,
Li Xiqing
no
took the
makeup.
dare and threw
Pregnant
it to Luo
women
Zhan.
should stay away from
Luo
these
Zhan
things.
read the words on
But
it.
I look so pale.
Feed your partner bananas.
Look at my face.
10 minutes for
She
one.
complained.
Fortunately,
It's pale
it
and
was
yellow.
not a restricted
So
level.
ugly.
Su
Not
Qianxi
ugly.
breathed a sigh of relief.
You look better than
but
many people
for
with
some
makeup.
reason, you Lily burst
Really?
out laughing.
Really?
Luo Zhan
Then I'll
also
put on
laughed
some
very
lipstick.
unkindly. However,
Eat bananas
Li
for
Xiqing
10
walked
minutes,
up and took her lipstick
sister-in-law.
away.
Picking her
Su
up, he
Qianxi was a bit
shouted,
confused and
Let's
said,
go.
What are you
Eat
laughing
first
at?
and
then leave. Wasn't it just
She
eating a
pouted,
banana?
but she was not
10
as strong
minutes.
as him.
One
So
banana.
she had to give up.
10 minutes. After breakfast, Luo
Li
Zhan
Xiqing
rubbed
took
his
a taxi
hands and
to the
soon
airport.
went to get a few bananas.
On the plane, Su
Come on.
Qianxi could not fall
Li
asleep
Xiqing
and
glanced
called,
at him and said,
Honey, your sister-in-law is shy.
The more I think about
Why
it,
don't you
the
let
more
her
I
feed
feel
me?
that our children might really
No,
be twins.
that would be boring.
Last night,
You
I
Lily
dreamed that a
shouted.
little boy and a
Let
little girl
Qian
came
Qian
to play
do
with
it.
me. I have
They
not
asked
seen
you to name
Qian
them.
eat bananas yet.
Li Xiqing heard
Hearing
her
their
words
words,
and turned his head.
Su Qianxi
His
suddenly
face,
realized
which had
an always been
immediately
cold,
blushed.
seemed to have a
You-
smile. Li
I'll
Xiqing
take
slowly
it?
took a banana,
Yes.
quickly peeled it
She
and
looked
said,
at him
"Come on."
expectantly.
Su
Grandpa
Qianxi
will
blushed and
definitely
stared at
name
the
them.
banana for a
You
long
can
time.
give them pet names.
The countdown starts.
Hearing this,
sister-in-law,
Li Xiqing pondered for a
this
moment.
one takes 10
Su
minutes.
Qianxi could not wait any
Su
longer and
Qianxi
said,
opened her mouth.
"How about Li
Put the
Debao
banana
and
in
Li
her
Erbao?"
mouth and took a small
Li
bite.
Xiqing was silent
However,
for a second
although
and
it was
looked
a
at her.
small bite, Then,
it was already
baby
1/10
Li,
of the banana.
Li Bebe, how could she eat it for 10 minutes? Another one.
Don't stop.
Isn't
Continue.
that what children usually have? Shouted.
Lie down
She
and
chewed,
let me think about
looked up
it.
and down,
Obviously,
and took another small
he did
bite.
not
like the name
The
she had
smile
given
on
him.
Li Xiqing's face
Puffing
grew
her cheeks
wider and wider
unhappily,
as he whispered,
she threw the
"You
blanket
can take
away
a bigger
and turned
bite
her
and
back
spit
on
it out
him.
if you can't
Li
finish it."
Xiqing smiled,
Hearing that,
leaned on the
Su
chair,
Qianxi
and
immediately
understood
It
what
took
he
3
meant hours
punched
to get
him.
from
He
Kingstown to the
opened his
capital.
mouth and took another
When they
small
arrived
bite.
at the capital
In the blink
international
of an
airport, less
it
than
was
2
already
minutes had
noon.
passed.
But more than half of the banana was gone.
Su Qianxi was a little anxious
Chapter
and said,
481.
"Aren't you bullying me?
Be careful.
You won't let
Li
me stop."
Xiqing held her.
You want me to keep
Let's
eating?
go down and talk.
How can I eat for 10 minutes? Su Qianxi was taken
Sure.
off the plane by him.
Use another way.
After they took their
Luo
luggage,
Zhan
they
chuckled.
took a taxi
For
to the hotel
example,
they had booked.
swallow the rest
The weather in
one
the
gulp.
north was cold. Su
And the
Qianxi's
surrounding
face was
trees
red.
were all bare.
Seeing the
Looking
expectant
into the
expressions
distance,
around her,
all he could
she
see
opened
was
her
a
mouth
stretch
and
of gray.
slowly swallowed it.
This
was the legendary
Lily
looked at the
haze.
direction of
Su
Su Qianxi
Qianxi
with
looked
interest
back
and saw that Li Xiqing
Suddenly,
was actually
she felt
searching for the
Louis Han
children's
move under her.
nicknames. And then
She
something
took a look
quietly
and
rose
said,
behind her.
"I
thought of another
Louis
one.
Han reached
Xiao
out and pushed
Si
her.
Xiao Cheng.
His voice a
Xiqing?
little hoarse.
Li Xiqing
Go
chuckled,
back.
turned off the
You
phone
Lily
and said,
turned her head
"Xiao
and looked
Chen
at him
Xiao
deeply.
Si?"
Just now,
Yes,
she
yes.
sat on his lap
Then
for so
they
long,
Su
and he did not have
No,
any
uncle,
reaction.
uncle,
it sounds so bad.
Now Su
The
Qianxi
driver
just
in the
took a
front
bite of the
laughed.
banana, and
Su
he actually
Qianxi
blushed slightly and patted Li Xiqing.
Chapter
475. Let's
Her
get
voice
out
was
first.
very low.
We'll
and
talk
only
later.
the two of them could hear it.
Li Xiqing
Louis
opened the
Han
door
froze
and took her
slightly,
out.
looked up.
This was
and
a
knew
hotel.
that she had found out
Li
when he saw her
Xiqing carried their
expression.
luggage and
His
walked in
face
with
was
Su
burning,
Qianxi.
but he no
After
longer
the
stood
couple
on
booked a
ceremony
suite
and
and had
pushed
dinner.
her.
They went
Young
to the home
Master
address
O,
that
take
Rong
her back.
Haiyue had given them.
He
The
raised
place
an
where
eyebrow
Rong
and looked at
Haiyue
her.
lived belonged
You
to the
Lily
capital
snorted
military
and walked
area.
back in the direction
The
of
hotel they
Oming.
stayed in was the
Only
best
5
hotel
minutes
near where
later,
he lived.
the banana in
Su
front of her
Qianxi
was
and Li
almost
Xiqing
gone.
bought some gifts
Su
before
Qianxi
walking in that
squeezed Li
direction.
Xiqing's hand
Anxiously,
Suddenly,
Su
what
Qianxi
should we do?
inadvertently looked
Li
back and saw
Xiqing bit off
smooth
the
and
last
soft
piece
white
of
banana
BMW
and put it in his
driving
mouth.
past.
The
Su
profile of
Qianxi's
the
eyes
driver's
widened,
seat was
but
extremely
before she
familiar.
could say anything,
There was
he
a
took
bit
her
of
in his
traffic on
arms,
the road,
clasped her
and
head
the
with
car
his
was
big
driving
hand,
very
and
slowly.
fed her with his mouth.
Su Qianxi
Su
looked
Qianxi
over,
looked at
and the
him,
person in the
opened her
driver's
mouth,
seat seemed
and
to
took
feel
a
her
bite.
gaze and looked over.
He ate the rest,
Rong Xian
and
saw
then
that it
put
was
his
her,
lips on hers,
slightly dazed.
from a light
but
kiss.
quickly turned back
He soon
indifferently
wiped
and
out
rolled
the
the
banana
banana
in
in
his mouth,
blocking Su
However,
Qianxi's
he still
view.
did not let go.
What's wrong?
But pressed her on the
Li
back of the
Xiqing
sofa.
saw that she
his
did
big
not
hand
leave and
around her
whispered,
waist.
"Do
No
you see
different
that
from
woman?"
usual.
Su
Provocative
Qianxi
and
pointed to the
wild.
BMW.
Luo Zhan, the single man,
"It's Rong
felt his
Xian."
heart aching and
Li
shouted,
Xiqing saw the
"Hey,
car,
hey, that's
and his
enough."
eyes suddenly became
Rong
obscure.
Rui
Subconsciously
He
looked at
gently
Cheng Yu.
pulled her.
He saw her
The
looking
Rong
at them,
family is
her
nearby.
hands intertwined.
Let's go.
And her face blushed.
Rong Haiyue was
seeming to
practicing
notice his
shooting
gaze.
with his daughter in
she
the
turned her
backyard.
head to look at
When
him.
he received the
Seeing
call,
his amber
he
eyes,
was pleasantly
she
surprised.
immediately looked away.
"Anna, let's
Su
go."
Qianxi was kissed
I'll
senseless.
take you to meet someone.
When he let her go,
Where to?
she was already
Rong
panting
Anna put
and
down
lying
the gun
in front
and
of him.
followed.
Luo Zhan
the
glanced
door.
at the time and
I'll
was
bring them in.
speechless. Rong
Just 10
Haiyue
minutes.
seemed to be in a good mood
He
and
took her
walked
in his
quickly.
arms and whispered
Rong
with a
Anna
smirk,
hadn't seen
"How do
Rong
you
Haiyue
feel?"
so happy for
Su
a long
Qianxi
time.
looked up at him
The
and
last
patted
time
him.
he was in such a
"There
good
are
mood
so
was a
many
few years
people."
ago when her
He
mother suddenly
chuckled.
bought him a scarf.
"Then we
can continue
He's
after we
here?
go back and close
When
the
Rong
door.
Haiyue opened
Su
the door,
Qianxi's face
he
was
saw
even
Li
redder,
Xiqing and Su
and she
Qianxi
covered her
standing
face.
not far away,
Li
talking.
Xiqing smiled,
Seeing Rong
stretched out his
Haiyue,
hand,
he took
and turned
Su
the bottle
Qianxi's
again
hand
and walked
the
over
mouth
to
of
them.
the bottle slowly
Mr.
turned,
Rong.
and finally,
Su Qianxi
it fell
called
on
and
Cheng
looked
Yu,
at Rong Anna
the only
behind
one who
Rong
had not
Haiyue.
won.
She
"Hello,
coughed
Miss
and
Rong."
thought for a moment. When Rong Anna saw
Or,
Su Qianxi's
"Dare."
face, she
Luo
immediately
Zhan looked at her
recognized
with
her.
sparkling
Her
eyes.
eyes were not big,
Special Assistant
but they were
Chung.
extremely
Truth
charming.
has a lot of taboo
There seemed to be
topics.
something different.
Let's play dare.
You don't have a partner anyway.
She seemed a little
so don't
surprised.
be afraid.
It's
Chung
you.
Yu originally
Su
wanted to
Qianxi
choose
did
truth,
not know if it was
but
an
after
illusion.
hearing what Luo
But she
Zhan
felt that
said,
Rong Anna's
she felt
eyes
that
were
it made
strange.
sense.
Was
She
it
reached
because
out
she
and
looked
grabbed
like
a
Rong
handful of
Xian?
dare. Luo Zhan took it excitedly and read the words on it. Choose
Chapter
any member of the the opposite sex and kiss them passionately. As soon as he finished thinking,
You just arrived?
suddenly felt that his life was bright.
Have you eaten?
Heavens,
Rong
spring is really coming. From Li Xiqing. Happiness came too suddenly.
I just ate
and
in
he
the
wasn't
hotel.
ready to deal
Su
with it.
Qianxi
replied.
As
Soon
soon
as she was ushered
be
in,
more reserved.
she was attracted
Be
by
more
the
reserved.
photo on the big cabinet at the door. Looked at Cheng Yu
It
with
was a
sparkling
family
photo
photo
that had been enlarged.
Cheng Yu's
lips twitched.
Rong Anna's smile
Looking
was
at
like
the
a
words
flower.
on the card, and Rong
She
Haiyue's
clenched her
face had a
fist and
faint but
mercilessly
heartfelt
knocked on
smile
his
of
head.
satisfaction.
Asshole. On the far right
You
of them,
tricked me.
the expression of the woman seemed a
Luo
little
Zhan
distant
held
and
his head
cold.
and wailed.
In this
but
photo,
soon moved excitedly
she seemed
to
out
her
of
side
place.
and said, "That is
No,
my wife."
you should believe
Rong
that this is
Haiyue
the fate that
explained.
God gave us,
Doesn't
right?
she look a bit
I am
like
such
you?
a handsome man by your
Rong
side.
Xian,
And
Su
God let
Qianxi
you
said.
choose me. It turns
Cheng Yu,
out that the
come on,
last time
ravage
she was
me.
in Kingstown
I am
Hospital,
ready.
she went
I
to
am
see
willing.
you. With
You
that,
met her?
he opened
Yes,
his arms
when
to
I was
Cheng
in the
Yu,
hospital.
with a
I
heroic
first
and
went to
stirring
see you
look on
that
his
night.
face, and I
But
met
the
her in the
smile on his
hallway.
face could not be
She
stopped.
looked a bit cold.
She has always been like this.
Rong Anna smiled and served them tea.
The nanny went home for the new year. I don't know how to make tea. I hope you don't mind. This is my daughter, Rong Anna. She is 21 years old this year, and should be 1 or 2 years younger than you. She can be considered your sister. Maybe you can become good friends. If she is 21 years old, she is the same age as me.
Xueqi felt she was old.
I am 21 years old, and my birthday is in October. I am not much older than her, right?
Rong Haiyue was dazed.
Aren't you the daughter of Song Yifan? You should be 22 or 23 years old, right? Rong Xian returned to him 22 years ago. With Xueqi's face, he could already tell that she was her daughter. If she was the child of her and Song Yifan, then the child should be at least 22 years old. How could she be 21? How old she is none of your business.
A cold voice came in, and the sound of high heels sounded.
Do you still want to nibble on young grass at such an old age? The voice was cold and not polite. Vaguely, there was even a bit of contempt. She is the same age as your daughter. Rong Haiyue, you are too crazy.
Everyone turned their heads almost at the same time and saw the elegant and gorgeous lady at a glance.
Rong Xian was wearing a sapphire blue cashmere coat with a thick ankle-length cheongsam inside.
She was wearing high-heeled shoes that were at least 5 centimeters high, looking elegant and noble. Rong Xian!
Rong Haiyue shouted.
He already had a terrible guess in his heart. Could it be? You can go back.
Rong Xian looked at Li Xiqing and Xueqi. We need to deal with our family affairs. It is not convenient for outsiders to be present, so we will not see you out. Xueqi looked at her and couldn't help comparing her with the Rong Xian in Song Yifan's photo. Thinking of what Song Yifan had been through all these years, Xueqi felt angry. She stood up and asked, Rong Xian, are you Rong Xian? Rong Xian obviously had no intention of paying attention to her. Her expression was cold. My grandmother asked me to pass a message to you when I see you. When Rong Xian heard that, she turned her head and looked over. There was a trace of emotion on her cold face.
She asked, Your grandmother?
Chapter 483.
That was what Mrs. Song had said to her in tears.
That white-haired old man had a hunched back and suffered from mild dementia. But he had never forgotten about Rong Xian. Did the instigator repent? Hearing that, Rong Xian did not seem to be moved at all.
Glancing at Xueqi coldly, she sneered. Why should I repent?
Song Yifan did not want to remarry. What does that have to do with me? Others can live well without me. Why should I be blamed for the destruction of the Song family? Go back and tell Song Yifan that I, Rong Xian, never owed him anything. Although it was an expected attitude, when Xueqi heard that, she still felt cold. Not worth it at all. The woman that Song Yifan, Shang Ximing, and Mrs. Song had been thinking about for more than 20 years was actually this kind of person. Xueqi was instantly enraged and cursed. You are such an ungrateful person. If my father and grandmother had not taken you in, do you think you could have survived? Rong Xian's hand shrank slightly. She took a deep breath and turned to the side. Her tone was soft but very cold.
She said, You can't say that.
I also left a child for them, didn't I? You are the blood of the Song family, aren't you?
Rong Xian interrupted her and looked at her coldly.
Go back. I also have family business to deal with. No, she was not. She was not Song Yifan's daughter at all. They had no blood relationship at all. When Xueqi was about to refute, she was pulled by Li Xiqing. Let's go. Li Xiqing's eyes were like the stars and the moon, brilliant in the vastness. He had something to say to her. Xueqi saw it and stopped talking, turning to leave. However, before they went far, she heard Rong Xian's cold voice. Rong Haiyue, do you want to do this? Rong Xian is lying. She is lying to Rong Haiyue. Xueqi squeezed Li Xiqing's hand and was furious. She clearly knows that my father and I are not biological father and daughter, but she did not let me finish and wanted to drive me away. Was she actually Rong Haiyue's daughter? Their current daughter, Rong Anna, actually didn't look much like them. Rong Haiyue and Rong Xian's facial features were delicate and small, while Rong Anna's facial features were clearly a little deeper and more elegant,
a bit like an ethnic minority girl.
She's lying.
Li Xiqing walked out and whispered, whether it's true or not, can't we do a paternity test?
I think Rong Haiyue has already guessed it. He will not sit idly by.
No, I'm just here to thank you, not to recognize my father. Su Qianxi rubbed the corner of her clothes. If I am not Rong Haiyue's daughter, then what about Papa Song?
I don't think that's what you should be worried about, Li Xiqing said ambiguously, looking in the direction of the Rong family.
Rong Anna had already run out, and just then, a sports car passed by behind them.
Su Qianxi turned her head and saw a tall figure walking down. Su Qianxi's pupils suddenly shrank. Looking at the other half of the body, she vaguely felt a bit dangerous and familiar. The person also seemed to feel Su Qianxi's gaze and turned to look. The moment he saw Su Qianxi, he was slightly surprised, but soon smiled.
Hi.
Update. The update for the leader and the president will be postponed to tomorrow. Chapter 484. It was him, Bo Xiao. Bo Xiao was no shorter than Li Xiqing, and even stronger than Li Xiqing. At this moment, he was wearing a military green mid-length casual suit jacket. He was straight, with a chic brooch on his left chest. His hair was dyed a fashionable brownish yellow, slightly curled. At this moment, he got out of the car with a polite and elegant smile on his face.
Long time no see, Mr. Li, Mrs. Li. I didn't expect to see you here.
Su Qianxi looked at him. This voice, this image, was impressively a noble gentleman. But faintly, Su Qianxi subconsciously overlapped him with another violent and rude man. For a moment, she was slightly dazed.
Rong Anna ran out, panting and looking at the man in front of the car.
She went up and said, Xiao, my parents are quarreling again. Let's go in and talk to them. Bo Xiao seemed to be a bit helpless.
Oh, I can't help it.
I'm too tired. Let's go. Don't fight later. Bo Xiao closed the door and threw his sunglasses in.
Soon, he nodded slightly to them and said, Excuse me.
After that, he walked into the Rong family with Bo Xiao. Although the pace was fast, it was not too slow.
This was the result of years of cultivation.
Ordinary people could not pretend to be calm and generous. After Bo Xiao and Rong Anna went in, Li Xiqing slowly asked, What's wrong? Su Qianxi looked in that direction and suddenly came back to herself.
Gently shaking her head, she said, No, it must be an illusion.
What did you see? I'll tell you when we get back. I am sleepy.
Okay. Li Xiqing held her in his arms and quickly walked out of the alley and onto the road.
When returning to the hotel, Su Qianxi took off her clothes and lay in bed. After thinking for a long time, she said, Honey, I think.
She paused and turned her head, only to find that Li Xiqing had disappeared.
Honey. She got out of bed and walked out of the living room barefoot. Today, the sun was a bit bright. The golden sunlight shone through the large floor-to-ceiling windows, and the whole room was warm. Li Xiqing was sitting on the sofa and playing with the laptop he brought. On a large dark background, there were codes that she could not understand. His fingers were jumping quickly, and the sound of typing came from the keyboard. She wanted to scare him from behind. Standing on her tiptoes, she tried not to make a sound as she walked, careful and careful. Suddenly, she rushed forward and put her hands on his shoulders. At the same time, the sound of glass being broken rang at the same time. Bang! The TV in the living room made a dull explosion sound. Su Qianxi was shocked and looked at the TV. Li Xiqing turned his head and saw smoke coming out of the hole in the middle of the crack on the TV screen. Those were bullet holes. Li Xiqing's heart skipped a beat. He pushed her hard and rolled to the side with her in his arms. Bang! There was a small hole in the leg of the table, and both sides were transparent. If it hit him, Su Qianxi screamed and trembled. He pulled a stool in front of him, pulled Su Qianxi and growled, Keep up! Fortunately, they were very close to the door at the moment. Li Xiqing escorted her to the porch and immediately pressed the emergency button. Chapter 485. It was a bright green window that blocked any line of sight from this side. Nothing could be seen. Su Qianxi grabbed his clothes and desperately pulled him out. Go, go! He turned and held her in his arms, quickly walking out of the corridor.
Don't be afraid, it's okay. The hotel manager quickly came over, saw them like this, and immediately asked, "Call the police." The hotel manager was a bit confused. "Sir, what happened?" "Call the police, can't you hear me?" Li Xicheng growled. Xueqi, who was holding him tightly, trembled even more. Li Xicheng's voice became soft. "It's okay, it's okay." Xueqi's hands were shaking. She suddenly looked up, looked into his eyes and whimpered, "She wants to kill me, is it Rongxian she wants to kill me? Don't think too much. If she wants to kill you, why wait until now?" He patted her back and whispered, "It's okay, wait for the police to come and let them investigate." A tall figure slowly walked into a rather romantic coffee shop and sat down in front of a beautiful woman. The beautiful woman seemed to ask casually, "How is it?" Failed. That person's reaction was much faster than I thought. "What should we do? If she recognizes us or catches us, we will all die." The tall man chuckled. "Oh, my fiancé, you are doubting my intelligence. Did you change the bullets?" "Of course." The tall man smiled elegantly. His voice very light and low, and even the shape of his lips was very vague. "A big shot is coming back from San Francisco, with great wealth." When Rong Haiyue arrived, Li Xicheng and Xueqi had finished their statements and were protected. Xueqi was obviously frightened, holding Li Xicheng and not letting go. Seeing Rong Haiyue coming, she looked a bit dazed. "Are you okay?" Rong Haiyue approached slightly and whispered. Li Xicheng gently shook his head, looking at him with a pair of cold eyes, deep and vast, hiding unspeakable kindness and unkindness, extremely complicated. "What about Rongxian?" Xueqi asked. "Where was she in the afternoon?" Rong Haiyue was slightly stunned. "She has been at home since you left, until she called me just now." Then he thought of something. "You suspect her? Impossible." Rong Haiyue's face was full of certainty. "Back then, she could leave me, a newborn child, at the door of the orphanage. Now I suddenly appeared and ruined her good deeds for so many years." She looked at Rong Haiyue with some sadness. "Except for her, I can't think of anyone who wants me dead so much." Every shot was aimed at her body. The bullet pierced through the floor-to-ceiling window and the chair. If it had hit her, she would probably be dead by now. No one was not afraid of death, especially someone like Xueqi who had died once. Clearly seeing the fear and distrust in her eyes, Rong Haiyue opened his mouth, but in the end, he did not say a word. The sound of high heels was getting closer. Rong Haiyue turned his head and saw a slender figure in sapphire blue stopping behind them. Chapter 486. "Honey, let's go back to Kingstown." She sniffed. "I regret it. If I had known this would happen, I would not have come to the capital. I was kicked out and almost died." "Yes, let's go back." He stroked her hair and said softly, "Don't be afraid. It will be fine." Suddenly, Li Xicheng's phone rang. It was Luo Zhan. "Hello, Xicheng?" "Yes." "It's not that guy. That guy has not returned to China yet, and the people who have conflicts with you are not in the capital. Just in case, I also screened all the call records and did not find any." "And didn't you decide to go to the capital temporarily? Only your family knows about it, right? Even if those people have 3 heads and 6 arms, they can't reach that far. In addition to the people you just told me, who else has this motive? Can you think about it?" The phone was put between Li Xicheng and Xueqi, and she also heard these words clearly. Frowning, she thought hard for a long while before saying a name, Tang Menjiang. Tang Menjiang is in Kingstown First Hospital. She has not been discharged yet, and she has no communication tools on her. Laurel is taking care of her, and no one else is in contact with her. She can't have a second Rong Rue who is willing to do things for her, right? Luo Zhan said indifferently. Li Xicheng's eyes flashed and looked at Rong Haiyue in front of him. Rong Haiyue could not hear the content of their conversation, but seeing Li Xicheng's eyes, he suddenly felt a little ominous. "You check Rong Rue's current location and call records. Report all his itinerary and movements in the past 2 days to me." "Okay." Hearing Rong Rue's name, Rong Haiyue's face became a bit dignified. He said, "Rong Rue is my nephew." "I know,"
Li Siqing said quietly. Now, I am focusing on the motive of the Rong family. First, Rong Rue is against us. Now, almost no one knows that we came to the capital except you. However, such a thing can happen. You don't believe it if it is an accident. Do you, Major General Rong? I have no motive to do this. You know, if I wanted her to die, I would not have saved her in the first place. Rong Haiyue was anxious and looked at Li Siqing. She is very likely to be my biological daughter. How can I want to hurt her? Su Qianxi heard the words, looked up at him, and then looked behind him. Rong Xian stood, looking at Rong Haiyue with a complicated look. Rong Haiyue, you think too much. This is Song Yifun's daughter. Your daughter's name is Rong Anna. Have you forgotten the name you gave her? She is the same age as Anna. Rong Haiyue looked back at her. And, do you really think I don't know? Anna is not related to me by blood at all. I didn't say anything because I'm giving you face, Rong Xian. Ha ha. Rong Xian's face suddenly changed. She looked at Rong Haiyue coldly. You went for the identification? Chapter 487. Rong Haiyue's voice was a bit loud, and the police outside looked over. Rong Xian immediately closed the door and locked it. For a time, there were only 4 of them in the room, 2 couples. Rong Haiyue looked at Rong Xian as if he was looking at a madwoman. He reached out and grabbed her arm. Staring at her with reddish eyes, he asked word by word, Back then, you were really pregnant and gave birth to the child, but you lost my daughter, right? Rong Xian looked at him with pity and did not speak. Such an attitude undoubtedly confirmed Rong Haiyue's guess. Rong Haiyue was silent for a moment and suddenly chuckled. Then, where did Anna come from? Anna is not your daughter, nor is she my daughter. Then what about her biological parents? Dead. Rong Xian's voice was a bit hoarse, with an imperceptible sob. I found her under the bridge. Her mother was holding her, and her body was still bleeding. She begged me to save her, so I picked her up, but her mother could not be saved and died. Then, Rong Xian chuckled and looked at Rong Haiyue with pity. Her mother told me that Anna was pregnant by a whore. Do you think it's tragic? A bastard, huh? Rong Haiyue's heart felt like it had been hammered. An indescribable pain almost burst out. With a big hand, Rong Haiyue slapped her hard in the face. Rong Xian was hit suddenly, and she was caught off guard. Her feet were crooked, and her whole body fell to the ground. The side of his face that had been slapped instantly swelled up, and it was burning hot. Rong Xian was a bit dazed, covering her face and looking at Rong Haiyue, who had been taking care of her for more than 20 years, incredulous. Startled, Su Qianxi let out a cry. Rong Xian looked at the hatred in Rong Haiyue's eyes and suddenly laughed loudly. You hit me? Rong Haiyue, you actually hit me? Ha ha. You can't stand it? Do you know that when she was young, I went to buy 2 buns and threw them on the ground. I asked her to pick them up and she really did it. Haha. I really wanted to take a photo to show you that this is your daughter. This is Rong Haiyue's biological daughter. She is not even comparable to a beggar. But you're feeding a bastard from God knows where, treating him like a princess. You, Before Rong Xian could finish her sentence, she could not utter another syllable. Rong Haiyue grabbed her neck with his big hand. His face was completely red, and his eyes were wet. He did not show any mercy. He wanted to kill her. Li Siqing was shocked and immediately went to pull him away. However, Rong Haiyue had lost his mind at the moment and was incredibly strong. Rong Xian's face turned purple. She pinched his hand with both of her hands, her legs flailing desperately. No, no! Su Qianxi cried and immediately opened the door shouting, Help! Police, police! Where are you? 2 police officers stationed immediately ran over. Seeing the situation inside, the 3 joined forces to pull Rong Haiyue away. And Rong Xian's neck had been strangled with a layer of purple, looking extraordinarily hideous. Rong Haiyue was pulled away. With red eyes and a red face, he shouted and was about to rush to Rong Xian, hysterically saying, Rong Xian, what do I owe you? You have to do this to me. Rong Xian covered her sore throat, her eyes moist because of the pain. She sneered coldly, her voice hoarse, but indifferent to the bone. She said, You deserve it. Death. Chapter 488. Rong Xian's attitude not only angered Rong Haiyue more. At this moment, even he wanted to throw this woman into the sea to feed the fish. Xueqi stood far away, looking at this sober but indifferent so-called mother. All the illusions and flukes that she had always held were all disillusioned. Why did she do this? Rong Haiyue was such a good man. From their conversation, Xueqi could see that he loved his wife and daughter very much. But why could such a woman get his love? Xueqi could not understand, but what made her even more incomprehensible was why Rong Xian treated her like this. At that time, she was still a baby in swaddling clothes. She was placed at the door of the orphanage during the National Day holiday. What if no one found her? In that case, was she already dead by now? Rong Xian met her eyes, curled her lips coldly, and climbed up from the ground. After a stumble, she quickly recovered her usual elegance and calmness. Fixing her hair and clothes, Rong Xian took her handbag and walked out the door. Her legs were straight, her steps were calm, and she was as elegant as a lady walking out of a comic book. It was as if the woman who had just spoken hysterically to retaliate against Rong Haiyue was not her at all. A policeman stopped her. "Ma'am, you need to go back with us to make a statement. The injury on your neck also needs to be dealt with." Rong Haiyue had been arrested by the police. Looking at her back, he took a deep breath and looked up at the ceiling, not letting his tears fall. Rong Xian pushed the policeman away indifferently and said, "No, deal with that person. It is best to put him in jail for 8 or 10 years and dismiss him. Ha! Ha ha! Rong Xian." Xueqi could not bear it and quickly walked up. Li Xiqing was shocked and shouted, "Be careful." Xueqi ignored him and walked to Rong Xian, shouting, "You psycho crazy! Ungrateful! He was simply a psychopath. Is Rong Haiyue not good to you? He loves you so much. Why do you treat him like this?" Rong Xian looked at her coldly. After a long while she chuckled and said in a hoarse voice, "You know nothing." After saying that, he reached out his hand to push her away, and with graceful steps, he leisurely walked forward. Xueqi felt like she had punched cotton. Instead of venting her anger, she felt even more aggrieved. He was so angry that he stomped his feet, turned around, and immediately ran up to Rong Xian. However, just as he was about to say something, he saw the tears flowing down Rong Xian's cheeks. That pair of eyes that were extremely similar to her own hid deep and obscure emotions, like regret, enlightenment, and pain. As tears flowed down, they were exposed in front of her eyes. However, Rong Xian immediately wiped away her tears and walked even faster. She walked around her in large strides and quickly left. Xueqi froze, watching the 2 police officers ready to take Rong Haiyue away. Why? Rong Haiyue did nothing wrong. Rong Anna was playing games at home. The door was opened, and the elegant sound of high heels approached. Rong Anna didn't need to look to know who it was. She didn't raise her head and shouted, "Mom, you're back? Where's Dad?" No one responded. Chapter 489. Rong Xian seemed to be in a bad mood, and Rong Anna could only see her back. Rong Xian went straight into the door, and Rong Anna heard the sound of the door being locked. Inexplicable. For so many years, she always felt that Rong Xian was living in her own world. She refused to communicate with people and refused anyone to enter, including her husband and daughter. Rong Anna didn't care, sat down, and continued to play games. Rong Xian threw herself on the bed. Her neck was still very painful, and with the shaking of her body, there was a burst of tearing feeling. Picking up the mirror at the bedside, the purple mark was shocking. This was done by Rong Haiyue himself. The Rong Haiyue, who always wanted to please her and keep her by his side, did it himself. He really wanted to kill her. Lying on the bed, Rong Xian's heart was terribly empty, as if something was quietly passing away in her heart that had not been filled in for more than 20 years. Looking at the ceiling, Rong Haiyue's face seemed to appear in front of her, with a smile with humble concern, and came to her with a smile, but she had stepped on him for more than 20 years. After a while, Rong Xian smiled. "You deserve it." She didn't know how many years it had been since she had this dream. In the dream, she was wearing a red bridal dress, sitting shyly on the bed. The matchmaker in the town had been talking to her since the early hours of the morning, teaching her a lot of things. Rong Xian smiled shyly. Thinking of marrying that person, she couldn't stop the sweetness in her heart. Finally, they were going to be together. Although they still couldn't get a marriage certificate, this was not a problem at all, was it? However, a figure suddenly appeared outside the window. Rong Xian thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. Only when he spoke did she suddenly wake up.
It was him. He had found his way here.
What was her reaction at the time? Like falling into an ice cellar, her whole body was cold, and she froze in place. The matchmaker was saying auspicious words outside, and Rong Xian lied to her that she was going to find something and would be back soon. When he found Rong Haiyue, he took her and went to the river bank. He said, "Come back with me, Rong Xian. Mom only has a few days left. Now she just wants to see me get married. Come back with me and fulfill her last wish, okay?" Rong Xian forgot what she had said. She did not know which sentence had angered Rong Haiyue.
There was a cement road that had just been repaired, and there was still a large patch of grass that had not been flattened.
He pulled her into the bushes. Rong Xian cried and begged him not to. However, every time she called him brother, it triggered the anger in his heart. He entered her mercilessly, and when he realized that she had lost her virginity, he flew into a rage. Xian! It was Song Yifan. He had come to see her. Rong Haiyue pinched her and gritted his teeth. Louder. Let him see what you are doing. Let's see if he still wants you. In the end, she did not dare to make a sound, and Rong Haiyue did not move either.
The two held their breath until Song Yifan was far away. Then he pressed her down mercilessly and ravaged her.
After that, Rong Xian's clothes were ruined. She whimpered and ran around. At that time, Rong Haiyue drove the old car he borrowed, caught her in the town, and forced her into the car. He tied her up in the back seat and drove back to the capital. He locked her in the warehouse. As long as she was obedient, he would be gentle. Chapter 490. She didn't want it, she didn't want it.
She cried and said, "You are the brother and this is called incest."
He pressed her down mercilessly, using his body to tell her that it wasn't. She was his child bride, and she was destined to marry him, wasn't she? The huge phone rang, and Rong Xian suddenly woke up from her sleep.
She wiped her face, which was already wet.
The phone was still ringing. She picked it up, and it was a strange number. It was Kingstown. She picked it up, and neither side spoke. After a few seconds, there was a soft female voice. "You want to accuse him? It was clearly your fault. You angered him so he would do that to you. You are at the police station?" "Yes." "Let the police answer the phone." Xueqi was silent for a moment, feeling that Rong Xian would hurt him, so she did not move. "You called me to ask me to let him go, didn't you?" Rong Xian chuckled, and her voice was still hoarse. "Domestic violence, the police can't do anything about it. I will not accuse him. Ask them to let him go." "Really?" Xueqi was a bit surprised and handed the phone to a staff member. Sure enough, after he answered the phone, he looked at Xueqi strangely. When Rong Haiyue came out, it was already late at night. Xueqi was so sleepy that she lay in his arms, half asleep. Suddenly, she saw Rong Haiyue coming out and was a bit surprised. "You're out." Rong Haiyue saw her surprised little face, and a pair of sharp eyes were sad. "I'm sorry." Xueqi was dazed, feeling a bit strange about his sudden apology. "I hurt you. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have ended up like that. I thought." Rong Haiyue's voice was a little choked, and his eyes were slightly red. "I thought that no matter how cruel she was, she wouldn't hurt a child. No matter how much she hated me, she still had maternal love for her child. Later, although I knew that Anna was not my daughter, I didn't tell her. I was afraid that she would be angry and leave." Xueqi's eyes were hot, and tears immediately fell. "If I had discovered it earlier and asked her earlier, you wouldn't have suffered so much. I'm sorry." Li Xiqing held her and listened to Rong Haiyue's confession. He couldn't help but feel sad for them. Shortly after dawn, Rong Haiyue asked Xueqi to go to the hospital for a test, and she agreed. Later, Xueqi did not sleep all night. Rong Haiyue sent someone to protect them. After letting Xueqi rest, the two of them got on the plane back to Kingstown. After getting off the plane, He received a WeChat message from Rong Haiyue. It was a picture. There was no doubt that the paternity test showed that Xueqi and Rong Haiyue were biological father and daughter. Xueqi stared at the picture for a long while, feeling very complicated.
Should I let Papa Song know? He stroked her hair and whispered. Do you think it's necessary to let him know?
Yes. But it's too cruel. Let nature take its course. Father-in-law Song has long known that you are not his biological daughter, and he has long known that you are Rong Xian's daughter. When the two of them meet one day, they will naturally know. Okay. On the 7th day of the Lunar New Year, Yang had not yet come to work, so Li Xiqing took his wife to a taxi. Shortly after getting in the car, he received a call from Yu Yuegue, who sounded hurried. Sir, Miss Tang has gone crazy. 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock to be completed before 9:30. Chapter 491.
Sir, Miss Tang is crazy.
When they arrived at the Kingstown First Hospital, Tang Menjing had been restrained, sedated, tied and locked on the bed. Unexpectedly, when Tang Menjing saw them, she was not hysterical or struggling. She just looked at them and laughed like a psycho.
The laughter was getting louder and louder.
There was a hint of morbid madness and calm mockery. Looking at Li Xiqing, her eyes were already red, and tears were on the verge of falling. Xueqi was scared by her laughter. Laurel explained to Li Xiqing, early in the morning, she said she wanted to eat lotus seed and tremella soup and asked me to make it for her. How could I go out? I could only find a place to buy it for her. However, who knew, she ran into the baby incubator, picked up the baby, and smashed him on the ground. Xueqi's heart skipped a beat and asked, Where is the baby? He has been sent to the emergency room. The initial diagnosis seems to be a broken bone. There is blood all over his body, and he was crying miserably. The baby was born prematurely, and his body was already weak. It is still unknown whether he could be saved. How can there be such a mother? She is worse than an animal. Laurel was furious, wiping her tears as she spoke. She went out to mess around. Poor child, having such a mother, so poor.
Tang Menjing heard this and did not react at all.
Worse than an animal, this kind of thing. During the time she was lying in the hospital, she had heard this kind of thing too many times. But why did she have to live like this?
She was indeed worse than an animal.
Tang Menjing stared at Li Xiqing and smiled happily. Xueqi's eyes were overflowing with tears. Looking at Tang Menjing's delirious look, she whispered, Pervert! What did the newborn child owe her? Why should the child be involved in the grievances of the previous generation? Rong Xian was that kind of person, making her an orphan. In her words, when she was a child, her life was worse than that of a beggar. Now Tang Menjing was the same kind of person. What could be wrong with a newborn child? Did you call the police?
Laurel was dazed, looked at her and nodded.
Yes.
Look at her. She committed murder.
Xueqi wiped her tears. I'm going to see the child. Where is he?
In the emergency room, not out yet.
Before Laurel finished, he and Xueqi had left the ward. Tang Menjing closed her eyes and lay in bed. The child's shoulder bone was comminuted. He was temporarily saved, but because the child's body was too weak, whether or not he could really survive depended on his recovery. Hearing the doctor's words, Xueqi was so distressed that her tears fell. The child's facial features were very beautiful. His little hands and feet were curled up, and there were still traces of tears on his face. He had already fallen asleep. She seemed to have nothing to do with Tang Menjing, but she was born by such a woman. Xueqi looked at the baby in the box and took Li Xiqing's hand. Li Xiqing also looked at him.
His cold eyes seemed to have seen through everything.
Xueqi opened her mouth, but did not say anything.
She put her arms around his waist and sobbed.
Chapter 492. Think about it. This is Tang Menjing's child, the child of the Tang family. Li Xiqing's voice was very low, and he reached out and stroked her hair. The ungrateful genes of this family are stronger than you think. Xueqi tightened her grip and looked up at him. At the beginning of life, people are naturally kind. I think the environment should be more important than the so-called genetic influence. We should educate him well and make him a child of the Li family. Isn't that enough? You want him to call you Mom? Li Xiqing looked a little reluctant. Gazing at her with a pair of deep eyes, he whispered, "When he grows up, he may hate you. He may hate us for driving his biological mother into a dead end. He may hate us for driving the Tang family into a dead end. When he grows up, he may want to find his biological mother. Is that okay?" "No," Xueqi sobbed. "I know this feeling best. Don't forget Rongxian." What was the difference between Rongxian and Tang Menjing now? In fact, Tang Menjing is even worse than Rongxian. I hate Rongxian. When the child grows up, he will definitely feel the same as I do now. Besides, we saved him now, and he will be grateful to us in the future, right? Don't underestimate the ungrateful genes of the Tang family, Mrs. Li. Xueqi bowed her head and stopped talking. Tang Menjing was quickly taken away by the police. For a month and a half, the only family that supported and helped her was the Liu family. During this period, she appealed twice and was finally sentenced to 10 years in prison for attempted murder. Since the shooting incident in the capital, Li Xiqing immediately went to Star City to find a female bodyguard to follow Xueqi. According to Li Xiqing's idea, he originally wanted to send her too, but Xueqi was afraid that it would be too high profile. In the end, she chose a tall and thin girl with an ordinary appearance. As a pregnant woman for 3 months, Xueqi's performance seemed to be no different from ordinary people, except that she was a bit sleepy, a bit picky about what she ate, and occasionally had heartburn. It had been almost a month since school started, and Xueqi was in a half-awake state almost every day. After class, the bodyguard Xueqi helped her carry her bag and escorted her home. On this day, Xueqi was directly taken back to Yuxiu Villa by Yang's driver after school. There were also 2 bodyguards standing at the door. When they saw her return, they bowed slightly to her. Xueqi had long been used to this scene and walked in calmly. As soon as she got home, she smelled the hot and sour fish Nanny Rong made for her. Xueqi dropped her bag and went into the kitchen, almost drooling. Washing her hands, she sat at the table and asked, "Where is he?" Nanny Rong gave her a bowl of rice and said, "Mr. Jiang hasn't come back yet. I heard that the company has been very busy recently. By the way, I heard that Tang Menjing went crazy and was locked up in a mental hospital. Did Mr. Jiang tell you what happened?" Xueqi took the rice and shook her head. "No, is Tang Menjing really crazy? I heard from Sir on the phone this morning that she seemed to have bitten off the warden's ear while he was still alive. After she was sent to the mental hospital for a checkup, they found out that she had long gone mad. Coupled with the fact that she was bullied in prison, she is now in a very dangerous situation." Chapter 493. Don't be impatient. Mr. Li is doing this for your own good. You should have listened to Captain Li and not let you go to school. Mr. Li can't argue with you. It's better to send a few more people. If something goes wrong, it will be bad. I know. Xueqi had a good appetite. After eating 2 bowls of rice, she went upstairs with her bag. After the shower, Xueqi heard the sound of breathing in the room. While drying her hair, she walked toward the bed and called, "Honey." However, there was no response. Xueqi did not care. Sitting on the bed and drying her hair, she crossed her legs and picked up the pregnancy book on the bedside, flipping through it. However, the breathing became louder and louder. Xueqi looked up and saw no one. Putting the book back, Xueqi went into the cloakroom and tentatively called, "Honey?" It was dark inside. She turned on the light, but there was no one. Drying her hair and walking out, Xueqi looked at the bed again. No one was there. She opened the door and looked out. Li Xiqing had just opened the door and walked in. Seeing her coming out, his cold face softened. Seeing him, Xueqi was dazed. At the same time, she heard breathing behind her. Xueqi was stiff, and her breathing suddenly became rapid. Her arms were stiff, and she did not even dare to move. Seeing her increasingly strange face, Li Xiqing felt a bit strange. Xueqi did not dare to move, sobbing and asking for help. "Honey!" Li Xiqing suddenly felt something was wrong. He strode upstairs, taking 3 steps at a time. When he came to Xueqi, he found that she was already soaked in cold sweat and stiff. Xueqi shivered and whispered, "In the room, there is someone else."
Li Xiqing's heart skipped a beat. Hugging her, he called, Changda. The two bodyguards at the door heard the noise and immediately ran in. Seeing Li Xiqing upstairs, the two rushed up at the same time. When Chang and Da came up, Li Xiqing hugged Xueqi and stared inside. The two bodyguards immediately understood and went inside to rummage through it. Li Xiqing and Xueqi walked in and saw Qing open the curtains of the floor-to-ceiling windows. They suddenly saw a hideous clown doll stuck to the window. Xueqi shuddered and screamed in fear. He patted her shoulder. It's okay. Don't be afraid. The clown doll was a mini stereo. As soon as the floor-to-ceiling windows opened, she could hear the sudden breathing sound. It was extremely loud. The bodyguard took down the clown, checked it, and gave it to Li Xiqing. At the same time, the bodyguard Ada handed over a sapphire blue book that he had just found on the windowsill. Under the clown's speaker was a sticky note with messy handwriting. I heard your wife is pregnant. The strange sound coming from the speaker, coupled with the strange note, made Li Xiqing's heart skip a beat. His eyes, which had no warmth to begin with, were now stained with a layer of frost and deadly venom, making him shudder. Chang and Da had not been with Li Xiqing for long, and it was the first time they had seen a master like this. The two looked at each other and stood aside respectfully. Xueqi took the sapphire blue book, which had 4 big words printed on it, Mom's Diary. Opening it, the beautiful handwriting was on the paper. The owner of this book was Tang Menjing. Death. Chapter 494. Isn't Tang Menjing locked up? How could she? Xueqi was scared. Grabbing his sleeve, she couldn't help feeling scared. What does she want to do? Don't be afraid. It's not her. Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes and had an idea. That person just wants to scare you. He can't do anything to you now. Who could it be? The Tang family, or the Lu family? The Lu family? Mrs. Tang's maiden family? Yes. Li Xiqing nodded. I will take you to the old house first. During this time, let's stay here, okay? Xueqi nodded. Li Xiqing winked at the two bodyguards, who immediately understood, closed the door and left. Xueqi packed a few simple clothes, but as she was doing so, she felt something was wrong. The Tang family has now been defeated. Tang Zhenghao is missing. Mrs. Tang is in prison and infected with AIDS. Tang Menjing has been admitted to a mental hospital. Even Tang Mengqing has been forced by your uncle's family not to contact Li Weiya. The Tang family is now besieged and helpless. As long as the Lu family is a little smart, they will know to stay away from the Tang family. Why do the Lu family still work for Tang Zhenghao? Xueqi suddenly remembered the mysterious force that had helped Tang Menjing in her previous lifetime. Previously, she thought it had something to do with Rong Rue, but now Rong Rue was with Cheng Yu, and Cheng Yu had no reason to betray Li Xiqing. So, who was the mysterious force? Xueqi frowned and looked at Li Xiqing. Looking at her, Li Xiqing's eyes lit up and explained, benefits. Mrs. Tang married Tang Zhenghao for profit. The Lu family has been following the orders of the Tang family for many years, also for profit. Although the Tang family has been defeated, it has not affected the Lu family. As long as they can still get benefits, they will not stay away because of the Tang family's defeat. After a pause, Li Xiqing continued, Tang Zhenghao is in San Francisco and has been in contact with a gang. When I sent someone to follow Tang Zhenghao, I accidentally saw them trading. My people were almost killed there. A deal? Xueqi suddenly had a bad feeling. Drugs? Looking at her, Li Xiqing nodded and said, yes. So this time when Tang Zhenghao comes back from San Francisco, he will definitely bring cash or drugs with him. I have sent people to surround that place. As long as he enters the territory, he will be surrounded. At that time, Tang Zhenghao and the Lu family can be uprooted to avoid future troubles. Xueqi was shocked. Li Xiqing was decisive and ruthless, leaving no room for negotiation. As long as it was a threat to him, he would never tolerate it. Xueqi did not know if this was a good or a bad thing, but she was always worried. Li Xiqing seemed to know what she was thinking. He gently hugged her and whispered, I don't want what happened today to happen a second time. There will not be a next time. I want our child to be born and grow up safely. Be careful.
I always feel it will not be so simple. Xueqi hugged him back and looked up at him. Chapter 495. It doesn't matter. Even if we can't catch Tang Zhenghao trading goods, the sky-high debt he owes is enough to make him suffer. With such a large amount of money, he will be locked up for at least 10 or 20 years. When he comes out, he will already be an old man. Li Xiqing pressed his forehead against hers and chuckled. Do you think your man is no match for an old man? She gently pushed him and said, Be careful of Tang Menjing. Be careful of Tang Zhenghao, especially Tang Menjing. I always feel that she suddenly became crazy. It's a bit weird. Li Xiqing had also considered this question, but at this moment, hearing her say it, he felt a bit amazed. Touching her hair, he sighed. Mrs. Li is getting better and better. Pfft, I've always been very strong. Is that so? How so? Let me see. With that, he reached out to touch her face. Here, or here. His big hand moved down, touching her neck and her chest. She blushed and slapped his hand away. Don't be serious. Pack up and go to the old house. All right, let's go back to the old house to sleep. You're annoying. I'm just sleeping. What are you thinking about? After sending Xueqi back to the old house to comfort her, he did not go to rest with her but called San Francisco. How is it? Already on board. Estimated to arrive at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Flight number is Konghang 3556. Before he finished, he heard the polite voice of the stewardess. My phone is off. I will call you when I land. Yes. Hanging up the phone, he called Cheng Yu. Send all the evidence of Tang Zhenghao's illegal embezzlement and breach of contract to Shang Ximing. Contact the person in charge of Shang Feng and inform him of Tang Zhenghao's whereabouts. Yes, boss. Li Xiqing hung up and immediately called Luo Zhan. Keep an eye on Tang Zhenghao's movements at Kingstown Airport and wait for an opportunity to manage and arrange hunting. Okay. Li Xiqing also asked Tang Menjing to be more guarded, just in case. Tang Zhenghao was the only one left in the Tang family. Without Tang Zhenghao, the backbone, the Lu family was nothing to be afraid of. Once he was done with this and settled this matter, the wedding should be put on the agenda. Li Xiqing turned on the computer and looked at the scene that he had designed, curling his lips. He would take her to Ireland and give her the most beautiful wedding of her dreams. It must be unforgettable. Xueqi took Tang Menjing's mother's diary and sat on the edge of the bed. The diary recorded Tang Menjing's expectations for the baby in the first 3 months. Between the lines, it was full of maternal love and expectations for the baby. However, after writing for 3 months, he stopped and did not add anything else. Later, she was imprisoned by Li Xiqing, right? Or, had she found out that the child was not Li Xiqing's? Xueqi felt that she was a bit sad. She flipped the book, and the middle page was automatically opened. It could be seen that it was frequently flipped to this page, which was why there was such an obvious gap, and it automatically flipped to this page. On this page, there was a logo. It was a flame in the shape of a wolf's head, with a star in the center. The lines were clear, and they were drawn with a colorful pen. Chapter 496. Li Xiqing did not return all night. When Xueqi slept until midnight, she found that he did not come back. When she called him, his phone showed that it was busy. Looking out the window, the sky was bright, and the wind was a bit strong, making a swishing sound. Xueqi rarely got up so early. After washing, she went out of the living room. It was the first time that Li Jinnan saw his sister-in-law so early and said hello. Hi, sister-in-law, so early? Yeah. Xueqi took out her cell phone and dialed his number again. Li Jinnan leaned over and asked, Call my brother? Yes, your second brother did not come back last night. And no one answered the phone. Maybe he is busy with work. Don't worry, he will not fool around outside. Li Jinnan opened a bottle of Coke. Our brothers are very self-disciplined. I am not worried about that. I am worried about something else. The phone could not be reached again, and Xueqi panicked even more. She simply called Cheng Yu. After about a dozen rings, the phone was picked up, but it was a male voice. Xueqi was dazed and looked at it. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was Chang Yu. Hello. I am looking for Chang Yu. She is sleeping, the male voice was a bit hoarse, and he added, This is Rong Rue. Oh, that's all right. Let her continue to sleep. Okay, I'm hanging up.
But then Xueqi thought of something and shouted, Wait!
Is there anything else? Rong Rue's voice was a bit sleepy, a bit low. Obviously, he was still in the room. You and Tang Menjing should have no contact, right? In the future, you should not help Tang Menjing or the Tang family, right? After a silence about 3 or 4 seconds, Rong Rue said, Speaking of it, you are still my cousin. I hurt you before, sorry, but I have completely broken up with that woman. If you need any help, you can find me. Now, I am Cheng Yu's boyfriend. Shameless. Who is your girlfriend? Cheng Yu's voice came over the phone, a bit muffled, obviously under the quilt.
Rong Rue chuckled and said, If there is nothing else, I am hanging up.
Goodbye, cousin. With his affirmative answer, she suddenly felt a lot more assured. However, if she could not find Li Xiqing, she would not feel at ease. If he couldn't find Cheng Yu, what about Luo Zhan? Xueqi was just trying her luck to find Luo Zhan. She did not expect Luo Zhan to answer the phone so quickly, and his voice was very clear. Hello, sister-in-law?
Luo Zhan, do you know where my husband is?
I don't know, but he must be busy at this time. He will be home soon. Don't wait for him. Go to sleep first.
Luo Zhan said the sentence as if he was reciting it. At the end he added, Second brother asked me to tell you not to worry.
Just protect yourself and your child. What's the situation? Another familiar voice came into her ears. It was Lu Yihan. Luo Zhan looked up at him, his hand still busy on the keyboard, and said, Not bad. Want to eat? Okay, I want a sandwich. Thank you, Auntie Lu. Xueqi was dazed. When did they live together? Lu Yihan was making breakfast for him. Chapter 497. Holding the phone, Xueqi looked at Li Jinnan and asked, Where did he go? Inexplicably, Xueqi's heart was indescribably flustered. Li Jinnan saw that she was not right, looked at the phone, and said, Today is Saturday. If you don't have class, go back and sleep for a while. When my brother comes back, I will ask him to see you. I can't sleep. I always feel that something will happen to him. Uncle, can you take me to him? Li Jinnan heard that and laughed, saying, Didn't you just call Luo Zhan? Since he has arranged it, then nothing will happen. I still trust my second brother's ability. I believe it too, but don't think too much. If that guy knows that you are cursing him like this, he will not be happy. It was just spring, and the weather was still very cold. Li Jinnan was wearing a tight black shirt, drinking a frozen Coke. The expression on his face seemed to be saying that Xueqi was thinking too much. Xueqi pursed her lips and went into the room with the phone. Seeing that Xueqi had left, the expression on Li Jinnan's face gradually became serious. He picked up the remote pager that had been hidden in his palm and whispered, Come back soon. Sister-in-law is very worried about you. Kingstown Airport. A flashy and luxurious yellow Porsche sports car had been parked near the terminal for several minutes. In it sat a man wrapped in black clothes, wearing sunglasses and a cap. He was looking at the terminal entrance. In the back seat of the Porsche, Li Xiqing transferred the last document with his mobile phone, pressed the headset, and said, Got it. Tell her not to worry about me. I will be back soon. Isn't it just Tang Zhenghao? Can he grow wings and fly away? Why do you have to keep an eye on him? If I don't get rid of him, I can't rest easy. His intention yesterday was obvious. He wanted to do something to her. I don't want anything to happen to her. You keep an eye on her. It's best not to let her stay in the room alone. You can ask her to come out of the living room to chat. I'll leave it to you, Jinnan. As soon as he said that, he suddenly saw someone running out of the terminal with a bag, followed by several men in black. The person who was being chased was slightly fat, wearing a suit, a hat, sunglasses, and a mask. Just by looking at his figure and attire, who else could it be but Tang Zhenghao? That's enough. Take care of her, Li Xiqing said, urging the driver in front of him. Catch up! The yellow Porsche started up, and a loud sound could be heard. Tang Zhenghao immediately looked over and was shocked. He quickly ran, and soon, they were out of the highway. A nearby patrolman saw this and immediately shouted, "What are you doing?" One of the men chasing Tang Zhenghao took out his police badge and shouted, "Police, that's a wanted criminal. Arrest him." The man turned back and ran as fast as he could. The wind was strong today, and his hat was blown away, revealing his white hair. He was even more certain that it was Tang Zhenghao. The yellow Porsche sped like the wind and made a huge screeching noise as it drifted in front of the man. Tang Zhenghao immediately braked. Unable to escape, he actually wanted to jump over the fence to escape. A row of people quickly rushed up. One of the criminal police pushed him down and handcuffed him immediately. Seeing this, many people let out a sigh of relief. However, after lifting his hat, mask and sunglasses, they found that his nose and eyes were not the same as Tang Zhenghao's at all. Camouflage! Li Xiqing felt a burst of anger in his chest. He couldn't help looking at the door of the terminal. There was a slightly chubby figure wrapped up like a dumpling, covering his face and walking very fast with a bag in his hand. With a cold look he shouted, "There he is! Catch up!" Death! Chapter 498. The yellow Porsche turned in an instant, and the beautiful sound of the engine went straight at the bloated figure. The real Tang Zhenghao's footsteps were even faster, and he immediately started running. Tang Zhenghao immediately rushed to the front, crossed the railing, and entered the road inside. The yellow Porsche stopped, and Li Xiqing immediately got out and ran after him. Although he had not trained with the army for many years, he still had the foundation, and he ran as fast as the criminal police chasing him. Seeing Li Xiqing getting closer and closer, Tang Zhenghao became more and more panicked. Finally, he gritted his teeth. When he was ready to fight with Li Xiqing, a gust of wind passed by, accompanied by the sound of tires rubbing against the ground. "Get in the car!" A woman's voice was deliberately suppressed, but Li Xiqing vaguely felt it was a bit familiar. The woman was wearing a black knitted hat, long curly hair, and a large pair of sunglasses covering half of her face. Tang Zhenghao finally let out a sigh of relief, opened the door of the back seat, and sat in the car. Just when the door was about to close, Li Xiqing grabbed the door with his big hand, panting, and reached out to pull Tang Zhenghao out. Tang Zhenghao was scared out of his wits. He grabbed his hand and shouted, "Drive, drive quickly!" The car quickly started, and Li Xiqing was dragged by the car, but his hand was still very steady. With the help of the car, Li Xiqing actually wanted to get in the car. "Idiot!" The woman in the front seat cursed. Li Xiqing subconsciously looked up and saw a man and a woman sitting in front of him. The driver was a man who looked very tall, wearing a military green cap and a mask, only showing his eyes, staring coldly at Li Xiqing in the rearview mirror. Just a glance, and then Li Xiqing heard the sound of a gun being loaded. Shocked, Li Xiqing immediately let go of the car. The speed was too fast, and he lost his balance and was thrown out of the car. "Mr. Li!" The driver immediately got out and ran over. Li Xiqing was thrown out and rolled twice on the ground. When he came back to himself, the black car had gone far away. "Are you okay?" Zhou Chen helped Li Xiqing up and asked. Li Xiqing patted the dust on his body and shook his head. "I'm fine. Your face and hands are still fine. If the second wife knew about this, she would be worried sick." Li Xiqing then felt the burning pain on his body. His left cheek, in particular, looked as if it had been burnt. The skin on his palms had been abraded, and his body was riddled with holes. Mud and dust were stuck to his body. But at this moment, he had no time to care about himself. Looking at the black car that had gone far away, he silently wrote down the license plate number, reached for his cell phone in his pocket, and pressed it, only to find that it was out of battery. "Give me your phone." Li Xiqing reached out his hand. His palm was scratched and oozing yellow and red sticky liquid, which looked a bit hideous. Zhou Chen quickly took out his phone and entered the license plate number. "Ask Luo Zhan to check this license plate number and all the routes they have taken today. Keep an eye on them. There are not only wanted drug dealers but also guns." Zhou Chen's expression turned serious. "Yes." Li Xiqing returned to the car and took a deep breath. Seeing himself in a mess, he said, Let's go back to the company and change before going back. It's too ugly to go back like this. Chapter 499. Aren't there more people in the company? They are all at work at this time. Today is Saturday. Hurry up. My wife is waiting for me to go back.
Oh, what's the hurry?
I'm reversing the car, but you'd better go to the hospital.
Look at your face. Li Xiqing looked in the rearview mirror.
There was at least a 3-finger-sized scratch on his left cheek, with blood and a piece of skin.
Well, it was really ugly.
Okay, go to the hospital.
Okay.
He first went to the hospital to deal with the wound, and then went to the company's cloakroom to change clothes. Just when he was changing clothes, he found that there were many scratches on his body. No wonder it was burning everywhere. Oh no, he had thought that he could finally make out with his wife when she was more than 3 months pregnant. Now, he did not even dare to take off his clothes. If she saw it, she would be heartbroken. Li Xiqing suddenly felt that he should not have gotten involved in this mess. He did not catch Tang Zhenghao, and now he could not even touch his wife. Alas, however, it was also because of this fight that Li Xiqing was more certain of his original guess. There was a drug gang behind Tang Zhenghao. The 2 people sitting in front and the man driving should be the gangster who held Xueqi at the gate of Star City last time, and the woman was undoubtedly the accomplice who rescued him last time. In this way, it seemed that it was more difficult to touch Tang Zhenghao. This drug gang was like an iron wall. The criminal police had besieged them many times, but they had not hurt them. How could he, a businessman, touch them? Unless he also became a part of it? Li Xiqing's movement of changing clothes became slower and slower, and there were more and more thoughts in his mind. It seemed feasible. However, if Grandpa knew it, he would definitely be so angry that he would be hospitalized. But should he just sit around and wait for death? Turning on the phone, he received a call from Luo Zhan as soon as he received a signal. There is no such license plate number. The license plate number is fake. The number you saw must have been tampered with. Luo Zhan's voice was firm. Li Xiqing trusted Luo Zhan's ability very much. If he said it was fake, it must not be real. The drug gang was so cautious. No wonder the police could not catch them after so many raids. Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes and said unconsciously, "Nothing ventured, nothing gained." Hearing Li Xiqing's words, Luo Zhan suddenly felt a sense of crisis. "Hey, what do you want?" "Nothing. You didn't sleep well last night, right? Go to bed. I will call you when I get the news." "Hey, Li Xiqing," Luo Zhan said. "You?" Li Xiqing did not wait for him to finish and hung up the phone. Fastening the last cufflink, Li Xiqing put on his coat and quickly left the company. When he arrived at the old house, he saw Xueqi looking around at the door from a distance. Seeing his car coming back, Xueqi immediately ran out of the house, greeted him, and reached out to knock on the window. He coughed and looked in the rearview mirror. After making sure the bruises on his face did not look too serious, he opened the door. Xueqi chuckled. "Mrs. Li, he lost to someone and was beaten like this. You have to discipline him in the future." F***ck off. Li Xiqing slammed the door, and Xueqi laughed and went to park the car. Chapter 500. Li Xiqing also had a bruise on his waist. Being hugged by her, he felt a burning pain. However, he did not show it on his face and whispered, "The phone ran out of power and turned off." "What happened to you?" "I fell." "You fell on your face?" Xueqi looked at his handsome and flawless face and felt uncomfortable. She reached out and gently touched it. "Does it hurt? Let me put some ointment on it." "I've already gone to the hospital." "It doesn't matter. It's just a bruise." Xueqi looked at his hand. On his palm, there was almost no place that was unharmed. It was bloody, with skin peeling off, and there were small grooves made by sand. It hurt. Xueqi's heart ached. She pulled his sleeve and walked into the room. Li Jinan was sitting on the sofa playing with a car model. Seeing him being pulled in by Xueqi, he gloated and sighed. Some people just won't give up until they see the end. Xueqi paused, looked at Li Xiqing and said, "Where did you go?" God knew she had been worried all morning. His heart was always in his throat, as though it was being hung up to his throat. She called Luo Zhan, but he did not know anything, and Li Jinnan refused to say a word. She originally thought that Li Jinnan must not know, but now it was clear that they had colluded to hide it from her. Nothing. Don't worry. I'm fine. Li Xiqing gently squeezed her palm, his voice low and slow. Su Qianxi looked up at him. After a long while, she squeezed his palm hard. The pain immediately made him gasp. Ouch! Su Qianxi pushed him hard, looking angry. Then she turned into the room and slammed the door. Li Xiqing was a bit dumbfounded. Seeing the blood oozing out of his palm again, he felt a little helpless. You deserve it. Li Jinnan did not have the slightest sympathy. He threw the car model away and whispered, How is it? Go to your room and take the medicine box. Li Jinnan couldn't help laughing. He picked up the medicine box and took Li Xiqing to his room. Li Jinnan's room was a classic military room. The quilt was neatly folded into tofu cubes, and 2 hunting airguns were hung on the wall, crossed over each other. Further to the side were the national emblem and the national flag, followed by a large army green photo. As soon as Li Xiqing came in, he began to take off his clothes. Li Jinnan took a step back and looked at him in horror. Brother, don't mess around. Sister-in-law is still next door. Li Xiqing glanced at him coldly and threw his jacket at his face. Close the door. Then he took off his shirt, revealing the bruises with blood oozing out. TSK. Li Jinnan furrowed his brows and took out the ointment. What happened to you? No wonder you didn't dare to return to sister-in-law's room. Li Xiqing told her the truth. In the end, he also told her about his speculation and decision in the office. Li Jinnan pressed his hand hard. Li Xiqing gasped, turned his head and said in a low voice, What are you doing? Are you crazy? You actually thought of doing this kind of thing. If Grandpa and Dad know, they will break your legs. Li Xiqing also knew the seriousness of the matter. He turned his head and slowly said, I just pretended to trade with them. After all, the Li family's influence in Kingstown and the country is not weak. If Chapter 501. Li Xiqing was speechless. Indeed, this was not a foolproof plan. However, what should he do to protect his family? Now he could basically confirm that the people who wanted to kill Su Qianxi in the capital last time were the 2 who were driving today. Even he felt that the female voice was a bit familiar. However, he could not remember who it was. The reason why they wanted to kill Su Qianxi was very likely that Su Qianxi had seen or remembered their true faces. They thought Su Qianxi was a threat. So, however, who could it be? The capital. Kingstown. Li Xiqing immediately thought of someone. He picked up his phone and dialed Rong Haiyue's number. After the phone rang a dozen times, it was picked up. There was a very loud and neat slogan on Rong Haiyue's phone, as well as the sound of soldiers marching. Li Xiqing. Listening to the voice, it seemed that he was a bit surprised. Yes, Mr. Rong. Rong Haiyue heard this title, his eyes became a bit dim, but he quickly smiled again. What's the matter? Are you in the capital? Yes, watching the training of the new recruits. Excuse me, where is your daughter now? Isn't she with you? Rong Haiyue said subconsciously, but quickly reacted. You mean Anna? Yes. She went on a tour with Bo Xiao in the UK these days, and it will be more than a week before she comes back. Tour? Yes, she and Bo Xiao are both music students. They formed a band, which is quite famous. Now, they are on a business trip again. When did they go? The afternoon flight the day before yesterday, about 5 or 6 p.m. Why do you ask? Remember the last time we went to the capital, we met in the hotel. How could he forget? Rong Haiyue's eyes were sharp and he asked, Do you suspect Anna? Still investigating, but this possibility is not ruled out. Impossible, she did not move. He originally wanted to say that she had no motive, but after all, she was his daughter, and he knew Rong Anna very well. If she knew that Su Qianxi was Rong Haiyue's daughter, she might really be hostile, but this hostility would certainly not constitute killing intent. Rong Haiyue hesitated and said, She did not know that Su Qianxi was my daughter. I did not tell her. That's not the only reason.
Li Xiqing interrupted him, not planning to explain. Now I have no evidence, but for Qianxi's safety, I hope you can keep it a secret and not tell your other daughter about my suspicions.
Of course. I'm going to Kingstown next week. We can talk face to face then.
Sure, see you then.
Goodbye. Hanging up the phone, Li Xiqing subconsciously thought of Bo Xiao, whom he had met at the Rong family's door. They were both tall, but dressed in different styles. Especially last time, Su Qianxi looked at Bo Xiao a little too much, and she was attacked that afternoon. There were many things that couldn't be linked together, but once they were put together, they became very clear. Li Xiqing became more and more suspicious of Rong Anna and Bo Xiao, but where was the evidence? Without evidence, everything was just empty talk. Li Jinnan's gaze on Li Xiqing became deeper and deeper. In the end, there was even a hint of viciousness. Chapter 502. Li Xiqing's eyes gradually calmed down. He put on his clothes, opened the door and went back to his room. As soon as he entered, he saw a small bump on the bed. He went forward and gently lifted the quilt. At a glance, he saw Su Qianxi's small head with messy hair. Su Qianxi opened her eyes, which were red and a bit wet. He reached out and lifted her up, whispering, "What's wrong?" Su Qianxi ignored him, slapped his hand away, turned around, and continued to lie down. He took off his shoes, got in, and pretended to be confused. "Is there a treasure under the quilt, huh?" Suddenly, he climbed onto her body and looked at her face. His tone was pleasantly surprised as he said, "There's really a treasure. What a beautiful treasure." Su Qianxi smiled, but deliberately kept a straight face. She reached out and pushed him away, saying, "Go away. I still want to see the treasure. I won't go." He deliberately shrank in her direction and reached out to hold her firmly. Su Qianxi twisted her body, turned around, and reached out to untie his clothes. Li Xiqing froze, held her hand, and said, "I haven't taken a shower yet." Su Qianxi did not care. After breaking away from his hand, she untied his coat. He could not win against her, so he simply lay flat and held her in his arms, whispering, "Sleep, okay? I didn't sleep all night. Let me see." Su Qianxi's voice was a bit choked. "How badly are you hurt? Why don't you dare to show me?" Li Xiqing heard that and knew that he could not hide it anymore. He whispered, "It's just a scratch. It's okay. Get up, let me see." He still could not win against her. He could not bear to see her cry, so he had to sit up and take off his clothes. Su Qianxi saw red abrasions on his body, some of which were a little red and swollen, but fortunately they were not serious. Finally relieved, she reached out and pressed on one of his skin. Li Xiqing frowned and looked at her without resistance. "You deserve it," she said, and then reached out and pressed him down. "Don't take a shower. It's just been applied. Go to sleep." Being seen through, Li Xiqing was no longer afraid. He took her in his arms and kissed her. Su Qianxi was kissed suddenly, but she had long been used to his surprise. Putting her arms around his neck, she responded awkwardly. Li Xiqing was a bit surprised by her response. The kiss deepened, and the tip of his tongue hooked her lips. Gradually, his lips moved down to her chin, her neck, and her collarbone. He was like a devout believer that was prostrating himself in worship of his most loyal faith. Su Qianxi's heart fluttered, and her breathing became more rapid. She reached out and pushed him. "You. There's no injury there." Li Xiqing's lips were against her skin, his voice a bit muffled. "We can continue." "Pervert." She blushed. Li Xiqing pushed her blouse up and pressed it against her body, whispering seductively, "I am a pervert who only has feelings for you." She held his neck tighter, trembling so hard that even her toes curled up. "Finally, it's been more than 3 months. I've endured so much." "Ah, don't bite there. It's uncomfortable. Coming. Death." Chapter 503. Coming. Li Xiqing had never restrained himself like today, being careful not to hurt her and the baby. However, after all, he had been a vegetarian for many days. When the feeling came, he had no time to care about the pain in his hands and fell on the bed with her. From the beginning to the end, he did not touch her belly. The belly of the 3-month-old fetus was already bulging, bigger than that of a mother with a single child. Li Xiqing looked at the belly and couldn't help but reach out and touch it. Do you think it's possible that it's a boy and a girl in your belly? I don't know. Su Qianxi saw his infatuated expression and smiled. It will take 4 months to find out, and the doctor will not tell the gender, for fear that you will value boys more than girls. Li Xiqing looked at her belly, left and right, up and down, and couldn't help smiling. Finally, he directly lay down next to her, held her in his arms and whispered, I hope it's a boy and a girl. If not, 2 girls will do. Did boys offend you? Boys are hard to take care of. I heard that my mother raised us 3 brothers, and she was furious. The 3 brothers were all mischievous. Among them, Li Xiqing was the most rebellious, followed by Li Jinnan. Although Li Beixing looked obedient on the surface, he was actually full of evil tricks, even worse than Li Xiqing and Li Jinnan. If his wife raised 2 boys, and the 2 boys were like them, it would be terrible. If it's really 2 boys, can you still abort it? Su Qianxi pinched his nose. It's the same whether it's a boy or a girl. When Li Xiqing was about to say something, Su Qianxi pinched his mouth and looked dignified. Now sleep. Yes, sleep. He had not slept all night, and he had been tense all the time. He was already exhausted. He fell asleep comfortably with his wife in his arms. When he woke up, Su Qianxi was nowhere to be seen. Glancing at the small alarm clock on the bedside table, he realized that he had slept until 8 o'clock in the evening. Li Xiqing patted his head, picked up the phone on the bed, and saw that there were dozens of missed calls. As soon as he picked it up, Cheng Yu's phone was connected. Boss. Yeah. Li Xiqing responded and stretched his waist. However, it pulled at the wound on his body, and the pain made him put his hand back. Tang Menjing ran away. At 3 in the afternoon, she injured a nurse and ran out disguised as one. Hearing that, Li Xiqing's eyes, which were still in a trance, suddenly focused and turned into a beam of sharp and clear light. Didn't I tell you to strengthen the defense? Yes, it's reinforced, but... Did you catch him? He ran away. There's someone waiting for him outside. He went straight into the car. Xueqi. Cheng Yu did not dare to speak. He seemed to have calmed down and asked, Where is Rong Rue? Rong Rue? Why did she suddenly mention Rong Rue? It's best if this has nothing to do with him. Otherwise, he would not care about his relationship with Cheng Yu. Cheng Yu knew how serious it was. She was shocked and immediately said, No, Rong Rue has already broken up with her. It can't be him. Chapter 504. Cheng Yu suddenly felt uncomfortable. She had worked so hard for 3 years to get this position. She did not know how many corpses she had stepped on. As soon as Rong Rue came over, his salary was the same as hers? No. This was too unfair. Cheng Yu coughed. This is not in line with the rules, right? Li Xiqing seemed to see what she was thinking and said, I'll double your year-end bonus? Yes, boss. I will complete the task. Well, thank you. For the next week, Li Xiqing was very busy. First, it was a cooperation project between the Li Group and Australia. Second, the acquisition of the Tang Group had not been completed. In addition, Tang Zhenghao had not been found and caught, which was undoubtedly a big stone in Li Xiqing's heart. However, it was worth rejoicing that in just 9 days, 2 drug gang transactions were cracked. The value of each case was as high as millions. The combined value of the 2 cases was as high as tens of millions. In the past 2 years, the cooperation between the Li Group and the police had become closer. Weibo and the news had reported it, and the stock of the Li Group continued to rise and appreciate in this short period of time. However, seeing the Li Group becoming more and more famous, Su Qianxi's worry did not decrease but increased. Today was the day of the prenatal checkup. Li Xiqing got up early and went to the study to deal with some affairs. Then at about 9 o'clock, he got up and went back to the room. He thought it would take a lot of effort to wake Su Qianxi up. Unexpectedly, when he returned to the room, Su Qianxi had already gone into the bathroom to freshen up. Looking for clothes in the closet, when Su Qianxi came out, it was already 2 minutes later. Her belly had begun to show. Xueqi's 4-month-old belly looked bigger than the average 4-month-old mother. Li Xiqing looked at the belly and couldn't help smiling.
He went forward to hold her, his voice low, mellow and gentle.
So early today? Xueqi puffed her cheeks and said, "Help me change. It's time for the prenatal checkup." "Well, wear a skirt. This one is loose and looks good." Li Xiqing picked up a spring floral skirt. "Raise your hand." Xueqi obediently raised her hand and looked at him with a pair of big almond-shaped eyes, blinking. Obviously, she had something to say. He pretended not to notice and focused on helping her put on her clothes.
Finally, he zipped her up and said, "Done."
"Hubby." "Yes." Li Xiqing took the jacket next to him and put it on her, casually responding. "Don't you think the Li Corporation is too high profile now? It was right to assist the police in fighting criminal gangs. But now that everyone knew that the Li Corporation worked closely with the police, wouldn't it be too eye-catching? The criminal gangs will definitely target us and take revenge on us. As the saying goes, the bird that sticks out gets shot." Recently, the Li group had been in the limelight so much that she was worried. Chapter 505. Xueqi blinked and did not understand what he meant. "I have ruined the Tang family, and Tang Zhenghao will never let it go. Besides, even without Tang Zhenghao's participation, the drug gang has already targeted us." His voice paused, and his eyes flashed a few rays of light. "Or they are targeting you. Do you remember the gunshot attack in the capital last time?" Xueqi's eyes narrowed slightly, looking at Li Xiqing. Unexpectedly calm, she asked, "Are they in the same group?" "Yes." Li Xiqing nodded. "Be careful of Bo Xiao and Rong Anna. I suspect that the man who took you hostage last time was Bo Xiao." Xueqi heard that, and there was no surprise on her face. Obviously, she had already thought of this possibility. Li Xiqing reached out and pulled her into his arms, whispering, "You also guessed it?" "Yes, I thought about this possibility. They were afraid that I would recognize them, so when I was in the capital, they wanted to kill me." Li Xiqing's eyes had a few glimmers of appreciation. He nodded and said, "Later, I sent someone to investigate them and even followed them for a period of time, but they were very cautious, always appearing and disappearing mysteriously, and often went in and out of the deep alleys, shaking off our people. Until now, no evidence has been found. The enemy is in the dark, and we are in the light. This gang can fight with the police for so long and still be safe. They are definitely not weak. Instead of waiting for death, it is better to take the initiative to show our attitude. We are a private company. Shaping the image of the Li family is not only good for the reputation of the Li family, but also the higher our image in the minds of the netizens and citizens, the more attention the government will pay. In addition, with the identity of grandpa, dad, and brother, no matter how bold the gang is, they will not dare to attack us easily. On the contrary, they will be very afraid." Li Xiqing was very confident. His eyes were sparkling, and his handsome face was full of the glow of victory. "I see." Xueqi was a little dazed, but she roughly understood the meaning. Li Xiqing smiled, reached out and touched her hair, and said, "You don't need to understand. You just need to know that every decision I make will ensure that you and your family will be protected." He was waiting. When Tang Zhenghao couldn't help but make a move, when he couldn't help but expose himself in front of everyone's eyes, then they would take the opportunity to catch him in one fell swoop. Tang Zhenghao, Rong Anna, or Bo Xiao, as long as one of these three people fell into the hands of him or the police, then he would have a breakthrough. At that time, they could be completely solved, and Li Xiqing could really rest assured. Xueqi heard Li Xiqing's words and looked up at his face. Noticing that she looked up, Li Xiqing looked down and saw her big round eyes blinking. She asked, "What about you?" Her voice was soft, and he reached out to hold her hand. Curling his lips, he said in a deep voice, "I will be fine too. I was scared to death when I couldn't find you last time. I thought something had happened to you." Chapter 506. As he spoke, his gaze became obscure and his lips curled into a mischievous smile. He kissed the corner of her lips and said in a low voice, "You can punish me however you want. Xueqi blushed and reached out to pat him. You wish. Li Xiqing caught her hand and teased. So there's no need for punishment? If there is a next time, I will punish you to sleep on the floor and not on my bed. That's too cruel. Li Xiqing frowned, looking like he had suffered a lot. It's that serious? Xueqi smiled, feeling a bit proud. Hugging his neck, she kissed him on the lips and said, So you have to be careful in the future. Don't act on your own. Remember to report to me before you act, so that I don't worry about you for nothing. Yes, Maram. His voice was low and soft, with a smile on his lips. His eyes were full of love. Xueqi's heart was about to melt. Blushing, she looked away and pretended to be calm. Now, go to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. He held her hand and put his other hand around her waist, saying softly, Yes, ma'am. Humph. Don't think that I will be lenient next time. You wish. At the hospital, after all the tests were done, an old doctor adjusted his glasses and told them that there were 2 placentas and 2 fetal hearts in the uterus of the pregnant woman. In other words, they were fraternal twins. Although he had already known that there were 2 children, hearing the news, Li Xiqing was still dazed. In a pair of cold and dark eyes, there was a little surprise and astonishment. His face, which had been calm since he entered the hospital, slowly became full of surprise. Fraternal twins, 2 fetal hearts, 2 placentas? Li Xiqing repeated this sentence, his heart racing. An indescribable emotion suddenly appeared from the deepest part of his body. 2 children? Fraternal twins? Repeating it again, Li Xiqing's eyes were as dark as the night sky, and at this moment, they were even more profound and bright. Did I hear it right? Xueqi looked into his eyes, which were even more dazzling at this moment. Curling her lips, she nodded in confirmation. Li Xiqing got the confirmation, and his eyes became even more misty. He suddenly laughed, reached out, and pulled her into his arms. His arms tightened as he hugged her. He deliberately lowered his voice and said, Amazing, my wife is amazing. Xueqi reached out and touched his trembling hand, chuckling. Facing the teasing eyes of the doctors, she whispered with a blush, So many people are watching. Be normal. Yes. He responded loudly, unable to contain his joy. He let go of her and kissed her on the cheek. The smile on his face seemed to be trying hard to be contained, but it unconsciously became wider and wider. His uncontrollable laughter was low and moving. It was the first time that Xueqi had seen Li Xiqing like this. He could not hide his joy, and he could not control his emotions. He was really like a fool. She couldn't help pursing her lips and looking at him with a blush. Li Xiqing's eyes were shining. He looked down at her lower abdomen, gently stroking it with his big palm. She did not know whether he was talking to her or whispering to her stomach, Wait for me. Then he strode out of the clinic. Where are you going? To make a call. Dash. Chapter 507. The phone rang a dozen times, but no one answered. Just when it was about to hang up automatically, the phone vibrated slightly. There was a rustling sound and heavy breathing. Ming's voice came quickly. Li Xiqing. His voice seemed to be in a trance and drunk. Li Xiqing frowned, swallowed the good news that was about to come out of his mouth, and asked, What are you doing? Li Xiqing, Li Xiqing. Ming's voice was heavy, and vaguely, there was a bit of a crying tone. Li Xiqing, I. He did not say it, but actually whimpered. Li Xiqing was shocked. His soft face suddenly tightened, and his cold temperament was revealed in an instant. He calmly said, Where are you? The first sentence was not to ask what happened, not to ask what was wrong, but to ask where he was. Ming's throat was even more choked, but he could not speak. However, the sad voice belonged to a man, which was particularly shocking. Li Xiqing's face tightened, and he walked in without saying a word. Xueqi, who was tall and straight, stood next to Xueqi. Seeing Li Xiqing coming over, she nodded to him. The doctor was telling Xueqi some things to pay attention to. Xueqi's face was full of the glory of maternal love, listening patiently. Ming's voice gradually became smaller, and he said, I am in the villa on Xishan. The villa on Xishan, where Ming kept you Lily. Li Xiqing's eyes were covered with a layer of haze. Ming's appearance must have something to do with Yu Lily. But to be able to force Ming like this, Yu Lily's ability was much greater than he thought.
Li Xiqing did not ask much and said, "I will be there soon."
Then he hung up the phone. Xueqi looked over and found that Li Xiqing's mood suddenly became a lot worse. She was shocked, and the doctor happened to be at the end of the story. After a few words, Xueqi agreed and went forward to hold Li Xiqing's hand.
She whispered, "What's wrong?"
"Something happened to Ming. I have to go and see." Li Xiqing's voice was very soft, but his mood was definitely not relaxed. "I will send you back first."
"No, you go ahead.
Xuangyu and Ada are there." Xuangyu always followed Xueqi and did not move half a step away. "I'll take you back first," Li Xiqing insisted. After sending her to the car, he asked Da to drive back to the old house. Along the way, Li Xiqing was a little absent-minded.
She reached out and touched his hand, whispering, "What's wrong with Ming?"
Li Xiqing shook his head. "I don't know, but I've never seen him like that." "What did it look like?" Xueqi was very curious, but seeing Li Xiqing's pursed lips, she did not ask more. When they arrived at the old house, Xuangyu and Xueqi got out of the car together. Just as he was about to follow, Xueqi pushed him in. "You go find Ming. I'm already home. You don't have to send me." For Li Xiqing, Ming and Luo Zhan were the closest people to him besides his family, especially Ming. Although they were not brothers, they were more like brothers. For someone as powerful as Ming to make Li Xiqing so worried, it must not be a small matter. Li Xiqing was pushed back, nodded, and looked at Xuangyu. "Take care of her." You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.